Hello and welcome back, League fans, to the third week of the 2017 Campus Series playoffs. I am still Tom Serafos. Here on the desk with me is still Mark Zimmerman, but how are you doing today, Mark?
I am still excited for more Collegiate League of Legends.
All right, well, that's great because we are down to 32 of the teams across the entire Campus Series now, so things are about to get serious.
Yeah, we've only got 2 more weeks until we're at the Campus Series Division Championships, and then we're going to the finals.
That's right, so as you can see on your screen, things have definitely heated up, but today we are going to start in the Northern Division where we focus on RMU versus GVSU. It's a lot of abbreviations, so hang in there. We saw highlights from RMU decimating Central Michigan just last week, and they looked like quite the force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, RMU has been one of the best teams in uLoL since its inception. They came in second every year that they've competed, but this year they're looking to finally place first. And maybe they even get a chance at a shot at revenge at UBC. We'll have to see. They beat them in the finals the last 2 years.
That's right. RMU is definitely one of the forces to be reckoned with, and they're actually one of the first schools to have offered an esports scholarship. They also have a dedicated practice space, and esports to them is a very, very serious matter.
And playing against them today is Grand Valley State University. They began competing in uLoL 2 years ago and made it to the round of 32 in 2016, but did not advance to the playoffs.
So they're looking for this year to see if they can wind up going a little bit further than that. But this year they did manage to go 5-0 in the group stage. They beat West Point in the playoffs 2-0, so they're definitely a competitive team that could potentially give RMU a run for their money or even surprise everybody and take them down, but it's going to be a tall task to do.
Yeah, they got a tough opponent ahead of them in RMU today.
Yeah, so why don't we just jump right away into the lineups, and we'll start on the blue side where it is going to be RMU. In the top lane, it's West Coast carry. Jungle is Mordio. Their mid lane, buys Pinks. Just wanted everyone to know that one. Meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map, it's Evan RL and Pommy.
And now we'll take a look at the starting lineup for GVSU. In the top lane, noobs are us, or USS. Jungle is Schnell Run. Mid is QXQ. AD carry, Amnesty. And support is Quick Game 321.
Yeah, so of course both of these teams relatively strong heading out of their group stage, both of them undefeated. RMU definitely coming into this one as the team favorite as we're about to go into pick and ban for game number 1. But RMU, everybody expects them to make the playoffs. Everybody expects them to get extremely far, potentially expects them to win the entire tournament. GVSU, though, they're complete underdogs in this one.
Yeah, definitely. And we saw, like you mentioned in those look-ins last week, just how dominant RMU was. You see just 16 minutes into the game, up 14-1 in kills. The enemy team only has 19k gold, and they're losing their top lane inhibitor. There's no way for them to defend this. Gillette just going crazy on his enemies with the Syndra pick. Obviously a very stompy champion, and kind of stomping this game.
Yeah, and RMU's matches have been rather one-sided throughout the entire Campus Series. They are, of course, an extremely strong team with a big, big history in the Campus Series, and anything less than victory here would pretty much be a disappointment.
Yeah, and I think that's why it is such an underdog story for GVSU today. If they are able to win, or even taking a game would be a decent showing for them. So going to have to see how they actually match up.
Well, undefeated in the group stage from the side of GVSU, we'll have to see if they're actually able to defeat RMU whatsoever in this one, as we're going to be heading into pick and bans for game number 1 in just a second. Of course, the draft phase is going to be extremely interesting. We've seen a lot more freedom, not only in the pick phase, but also the ban phase. When we wind up looking at what players are actually going to be playing, the metagame has kind of shifted a little bit, specifically mid lane, and sometimes in the AD carry position, a lot of different picks have kind of risen to the top.
And I do like the Syndra pick that RMU was using last week. I think if you think that you're the better player and the better team than your opponent, Syndra's a great champion to prove that on, where you can make a lot of individual plays. She's great. She's not like a great roaming champion, but if she does get out of lane and into a bot lane or a top lane for a dive, she's brutal to try and survive against. So assuming that RMU is the more competent team and they can get that Syndra pick, I wouldn't mind seeing that again.
What we do already see a lot of jungle priority being banned away by GVSU. They don't want Mordio on any of those powerful jungle picks in the Rengar and the Kha'Zix. The Camille being banned away from RMU. It's still a top lane pick, not as dominant as it was pre-nerf. However, still something that players can run away with, especially if it's more of a carry-centric top laner. But the Ahri is kind of the more interesting one. I already mentioned before, different picks kind of surfacing in the mid lane in the AD carry position. Ahri being banned away right here.
Ahri definitely was one of the picks that kind of started rising in priority recently. Generally a very safe laning phase, even has a couple decent matchups against the standard other mages that are being played in the mid lane right now. She has that great roaming potential, the great pick potential. The only problem is that if she doesn't get ahead, she can be a little hard to play, but if you still find the flanks on squishy champions, you can blow them up.
Well, speaking of champions that can find flanks on pretty much anybody, the Kled was the first lock-in for the side of RMU, so that's going to be a very powerful pickup and something we don't see all too often.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Zig play a little bit in the top lane in the LCS. He looked really good on it. Darshan, not quite as much either. Didn't quite look like the Kled master, but he's a extremely strong champion, good laning phase, makes a lot of team play, so a good pickup there for RMU. GVSU also has the Shen, as well as the Lee Sin, two extremely strong playmaking champions at 6. Going to be able to see if they can make plays where the Kled isn't, though the Kled can follow up pretty well with his ultimate.
Well, on the side of RMU, even though they did wind up having that Kha'Zix banned away, as well as the Rengar, the Lee Sin being picked away, Graves was left completely open, so they are going to wind up picking up one of the more powerful jungle pickups on this patch, and the Orianna, who previously had been kind of like that safe, you can blind pick this into multiple matchups thing, definitely seeing a rise in priority now that like champions such as Ryze have fallen away.
Yeah, Ryze definitely getting hit with the nerf bat a little bit, knocking him down. Generally, that was one of the worst matchups that you could get as the Orianna, so it's nice to see him a little weaker. GVSU also getting the Lucian, which just got buffed a little bit on patch 6.5. His early game still not the best, but they increased how well his attacks scale into the later game, having basically a faster cooldown on all of them, so you can get the double proc in faster.
All right, so we'll have to see our first look at the buffed up Lucian, as well as a Katarina pickup coming in from GVSU. This is something that may not have the safest of lane phases, but when you wind up getting into the team fight phase, and you wind up having a frontline like Shen that can put the Stand United on her, as well as the Lee Sin that can kind of clear a pathway for those resets to come through. A very dangerous pickup from that mid lane pool, as we did see the Ezreal and the Karma on the side from RMU, and then the Lulu being locked in by GVSU.
It's going to be an interesting bot lane to keep our eye on. I think that's definitely where I'm looking forward to the most. Ezreal Karma, generally one of the stronger lanes right now. Karma with a lot of push priority, as we'll take another look at the results for the draft recap. And I think that in general, I like RMU's comp a lot. They have frontline available with the Kled, a lot of shielding and Ori Karma, a lot of speed ups and utility, and then just good damage with the Graves and Ezreal pick as well. Maybe a little physical damage heavy, but it's not too bad considering that a lot of GVSU is pretty squishy.
Yeah, but the side of GVSU does wind up kind of shoring up a little of those squishy holes with the Lulu pickup. We'll see if the Wild Guards are going to be on point, if it's going to be something that can save those primary targets. Although, as you did mention, not only is there a lot of damage, there's a Kled ultimate and a lot of damage being backed up for the side of RMU.
Right, and I think RMU would be my favorite to win this series overall, and I think this game as well, just based off the strength of their players and their history even within the uLoL scene. I think they're going to take this one.
I see already 3 weeks into the playoffs, and you've already figured out all the questions I want to ask you. I was going to ask you who you thought was going to win,
I just know.
Man, I'm kind of with you on this. And RMU, just the history behind this team makes it extremely hard to root against them. But you've got our predictions, guys, so we'd love to hear what you think. So get on Twitter and let us know by tweeting either hashtag RMU or hashtag GVSU to us over here at uLoL, so you get your voices heard. But, you know, we could play the voting game all day. We could play who we think is going to win, or we could come at the game 1 of this best of 3.
Yeah, why don't we let the teams play the game instead of us just talking about it?
All right, so we're going to head on to the riff for game number 1 right now. It's going to be RMU, heavy favorites starting on the blue side. GVSU, they're not necessarily newcomers, although this is as far as they've gotten before. Round of 32 last year, only been a team for 2 years. Came undefeated out of the group stage. They've already run into a Titan in the north in RMU. We'll see if they could take them down. Yeah,
a lot of good teams in the campus series. Hard to get much further than the top 32 when you're bumping into teams like RMU. Hopefully, you know, GVSU puts up a good fight, as we're going to see them go for an early invade into the bot lane. They might go for an invade. We saw a little bit of this over on the BTN. Teams are getting a little bit more aggressive in recent weeks, hoping to get some early advantages in these tight playoff matches.
We did also see, however, the line of scrimmage from the side of RMU. Let's see if they're able to spot anything out and if they get any sort of deep ward trades going on. Pommy's going to wind up putting ward over the wall, so that's going to wind up being spotted out by the side of GVSU, and because of that ward, they decided to recall and back away. So no early vision invades going down from GVSU. That was spotted out.
Right, and we see Mordio getting a little aggressive up on the top side, was thinking about throwing a ward down the top jungle of GVSU. Backs out though. Not actually going to do anything there. As it looks like we're going to get mostly standard starts. Both junglers potentially starting on the top side, though Mordio is working his way down to his red buff now.
Yeah, we do have Mordio making his way to the bottom side of the map, so it will look like Schnellrun and Mordio both going to be starting on the red side of the jungle, one on the buff, and potentially Mordio going for that Raptor camp start. Does have the Orianna ball to provide a little bit of extra damage onto those baby Raptors, and the Graves end of the line, as well as just his buckshot passive, the shotgun shells, going to be doing a lot of damage to those mini Raptors. Really helps him get that early clear.
Yeah, very interesting also to see the fact that he started with a control ward, so he has a little bit different of a opening item build, getting that down early to avoid from any potential aggressive Lee Sin invades. I actually don't mind that. Graves is a champion that clears fairly healthily. If you're able to get some vision down early, great.
Yeah. Lee Sin going to be going for the buff to buff start, goes for the red buff. Transitions quickly over to his blue side buff, so if Mordio wanted any sort of cheeky invading shenanigans early on, Schnellrun is up to snuff on potentially scouting that out by going for the buff to buff start. Bottom side of the map here, You have the Ezreal Karma lane, a bit pokey and a bit pushy against the Lucian and Lulu combination, something we haven't seen all too recently. And actually, interestingly enough, Evan RL was a NACS Challenger AD carry player. Here he's playing the Karma, whereas Pommy, who used to be an NA Challenger support player, is now playing the Ezreal this game as well. So a little bit of a champion swap going on between these two guys.
Pretty surprising to see that one. And overall, it looks like the Lucian Lulu lane will be under a little bit of pressure early on. The poke from Karma, one of the most annoying champions to lane against currently in the meta. Just so much wave clear and poke available with her spammable Q, and then when she gets her mantra on it, just, yeah, you're really worried about that one-shotting your backline creeps, basically.
Yeah, and of course, the Lucian, known as a bit of a lane bully, as you see actually QXQ getting aggressed on here by Pinks, and forcing him to just shunpo in and out away. The level 3 Katarina trades are very powerful, but against a safe pick like the Orianna, those trades don't always go in her favor.
Yeah, generally the Katarina should actually win those early trades, but we saw that he was chunked out pretty heavily before level 3, so when he goes into the trade, he's already in such a health deficit that he's not actually able to win it. You saw him get the second Q off, and then with that second landing one, you can get another shunpo, pick up the dagger, and potentially start threatening to kill the Orianna with the ignite, but too far behind, as we see. Just generally, RMU getting the favorable trades in every lane.
Yeah, we did see Mordio getting a little bit of a cheeky invade down onto Schnellrun, forces the smite onto the big raptor, but steals away 3 of those little raptors, so it's going to be a slight experience advantage for Mordio. Utilizes that blast cone over the wall as well, is going to start counter jungling away on these Krugs. He knows that there's no smite available for Lee Sin, throws down a smoke screen as he's scattered out though, and it looks like Noobs R Us going to be collapsing from the top side here. So Mordio, stuck behind a rock in a hard place, flashes away from the Shenton, gets the end of the line against the wall, is going to be going after Schnellrun. The safeguard is there to keep him alive, but last auto attack will score first blood from Mordio. Noobs R Us has to flash back underneath his own tower.
That was extremely well played by Mordio. I mean, the way that he was not worried about the fact that the Shen was collapsing first, was able to flash out from the taunt, and then land the buckshot and onto everyone in the end of the line. I mean,
ooh, flash forward from Pinks, and the last auto attack procs the Thunderlord's Decree and takes him down in the mid lane.
Oh, that's so terrible to see as the snowball assassin player. The fact that not only are you dead early, but you only have 16 CS to the opponent's 30. QXQ falling extremely far behind this lane, and a Katarina play from behind against a team with a lot of shielding. Not going to be a fun game for him.
Well, RMU already off to a great start, and if this keeps up, against Central Michigan last week, we checked in on them like 10 minutes into each game, and they were already snowballing advantages down into inhibitors. I believe that entire series lasted about a half an hour of game time. We'll see if they continue to break their own track records here in this round of the playoffs, as M Nasty is going to get exhausted up here. Pommy and Evan RL doing a decent amount of trading back and forth. The heal got popped from the side of GVSU, and actually it's going to wind up being a trade kill here on the bottom side. Pommy just did not heal his support.
What was that, Pommy?
Oh, double kill!
He dies as well? What is he doing? He's not used to having the heal as the AD carry. He's in the support position, I guess.
I guess so. So saves the heal, saves the flash, and a double kill goes over to the Lulu. And this is a Winter Wonderland skin Lulu getting some action in here.
I mean, I like the way that RMU was playing that bot lane trade out. Initially, they were doing extremely well, and they should have just popped the heal, kill the Lucian, and come out with a 2-for-1. Big misstep there, as the bot lane got a little over-aggressive and overestimated how tanky they were.
But this is just a replay of that fight, and as you mentioned, this starts out great for the side of RMU. Even though Evan RL only hits level 4 as this trade begins, they get a lot of trade damage on the Lucian, and they should be winning this.
Right, you see just there, Evan RL does miss one of the Qs, would have killed M Nasty a little bit faster, but they're still fine. You can basically auto down. The heal does knock them in. Maybe he wasn't expecting Evan RL to flash in. And then here, I don't know what Pommy's thinking. He knows he's getting low. Just had no idea that the E was going to come in from Lulu and maybe finish him off. Yeah. Either way, big misplay by Pommy. His team is still up 1,000 gold from the plays elsewhere on the map, but not at all what you want to see early on.
Well, the bottom side trades going in favor of GVSU is not going to deter the RMU jungler, as Mordio tries to go a little bit forward into the blue buff area of the map. And as we can see right here, the Lucian pick actually going for Fervor battle, not wanting going for the Warlords, not going for Thunderlord, something that we've seen a little bit more powerful since the buff more recently.
Yeah, I think generally Fervor is favored by a lot of AD carries now, especially anything that tends to cast a couple spells, so Ezreal as well would be going for the Fervor, and Warlords with its most recent set of nerfs have mostly fallen out for anything that can run Fervor.
And
Warlords,
we also saw Thunderlords being picked up for quick game 3-2-1's Lulu, so a little bit more of the damage-oriented lane bully style Lulu, not going for the Windspeaker's Blessing to kind of keep their carry alive, which Palmy may have not been expecting the Warlord, the Thunderlord's Decree proc coming in that trade. Now is actually going to use the heals of running away from this flash forward on the bottom side of the map. Quick Game and M Nasty after that trade kill on the bottom side, getting a little bit of advantage on that side of the map, whereas West Coast Carry decides that he's not just going to mess around with this top laner in lane, he's going to do it in the top side of the jungle as well, forcing the taunt away from Shen and trying to get priority on this red buff.
I mean, this is what you like to see. West Coast Carry takes his pressure advantage that he has on the top side, about a 15 CS advantage, and starts trying to convert it to elsewhere on the map. He was hoping probably for Schnellrun to just face check into him. They did have a ward previously on the Krugs that spotted them out, but instead Schnellrun does not try to fight for that red buff. And with that, Mordio is able to go for an invade and just steal that red away. Schnellrun opting to instead go for some kind of mirror invade, but it looks like RMU is plenty aware with all that vision control they have down the bot side. They're going to collapse on this.
Yeah, Evan and Palmy collapsing down here. The smite away there from Schnellrun. Tries to go over the wall, but he's not in range of it. Now he's going to wind up going right into Orianna. She says, thank you very much for that red buff. Stand United used, however, onto Lulu. That's going to be Graves being locked up and taken down. The command shockwave comes out and locks up members of GVSU, but the culling is there. M Nasty trying to get damage back down onto Pinks, but Pinks is undeterred. He might not have a lot of mana, but he's got a red buff, and that clockwork wind up stacking away on Orianna's going to deal a decent amount of damage. But a flash forward comes in here, and QXQ is able to pick up a trade kill, so that's GVSU getting on the board.
Man, RMU is playing a little over-aggressive here. Feels like they're slightly disrespecting GVSU's individual players, thinking that they're the better team, they can just brute force plays. After they pick off the Lee Sin, it's still a 4v4. You can't go that hard. You've already blown a bunch of cooldowns, and after Mordio died, it was a 3v4. So it was very surprising to see them continue trying to force around the river, give up another kill by Pinks. It's nice that West Coast Carry grabbed the top turret, but he didn't have TP to join into that fight, so I don't know why Army was continuing to force down there.
No, and this is all back off of the response of donating a red buff, the enemy red buff, to the side of West Coast Carry in the top lane. They collapsed down on the Schnellrun, but like you said, this Lee Sin should just be dead. There should be no reason that Mordio is fighting on the other side.
Yeah, you see Mordio being a little hesitant there, not sure what he wanted to do. The ultimate comes in from Pink, so they're not actually able to kill anybody off. And after this point, you think that they're going to start playing defensively. Like I said, it is that 4v3, but Pink's trying to continue to harass GVSU, and they realize, oh, we can just turn and kill this guy. So basically giving this kill back to Katarina, a huge mistake there. The Katarina was behind, and you just want to leave her behind. Don't give her any chances to crawl back into the game.
Nope, but she shun-posed herself to a kill on that. At the same exact time, though, West Coast Carry was able to get the first tower of the game back for RMU. So although they overstep on the bottom side of the map, they're able to get advantages while Shen is away fighting down there. So first tower goal going over to that side. But Pink's getting aggressed upon here. Schnellrun goes forward, runs it, kicking Mordio backwards. The command shockwave comes in, but meanwhile on the bottom side, Palmy and West Coast Carry have been able to take down the Lucian, but now they're turning down onto Mordio. It's been a 1-for-1 trade. The Katarina ultimate is there. It's a double kill picked up now for QXQ. West Coast Carry maybe wants to make something of this, but they have to back away. They're still running behind an enemy tower here that's more than half HP.
Right, it seemed like there were two fights going on at the same time. We saw West Coast Carry was actually making a play with his ultimate in the bot lane, and he was able to get a kill, but at the same time, there was that invade coming in from Mordio and Pinks that was cut off and spotted out by the rest of GVSU, and now West Coast Carry still trying to get aggressive here.
Bear trap on a rope, pulls back in the Katarina. Her cooldowns aren't quite available just yet, gets extremely low. West Coast Carry on this Kled showing no heed for anybody's life, even his own, continuing to get aggressive. Meanwhile, the side of GVSU, they're trying to do a little bit of a cheeky dragon here, but it does look like that RMU is going to spot this out. They're able to take down the Infernal Drake first, but what cost is it going to be for them? It's already one death over on the side, given away to West Coast Carry. They are barely able to get Shen out of this one. Now M Nasty exhausted up, has to flash ways. West Coast Carry, even without Scarl, flashes forward, tries to get a trade kill down, and they will just lose their Lee Sin.
I mean, as sloppy as it is, I really do like RMU's aggression, not wanting to concede any fight anywhere. They see the dragon go down, they try and collapse onto that one after Scarl, and West Coast Carry was able to turn back around in the bot lane. See him getting very aggressive now, 1-0-2 with the 20 CS lead against his opponent, Noobs R Us. Pink, so could be in trouble in the mid lane.
Shen San United, the Shumpo is there. The taunt, is it going to wait till the flash over the wall? But Orianna has those summoner spells. Sidesteps the taunt, though, able to get out of there with just the ghost. Pinks looks like he might be able to get out of this one. Blastgun's not going to get used. Command Shockwave available, keeps himself alive, but Lee Sin comes in, and that's just going to be another person assisting on that kill.
It is a little hard to play the Orianna against the Katarina with a Shen on top at any point in the laning phase. If you don't have your flash available, people just jump down onto you. And we'll take a look at that bot lane play that just happened, where West Coast Carry ulted in while the rest of his team was getting caught off in the jungle. They're able to blow up M Nasty on Lucian right away. but at the same time, the rest of their team's losing 2 other members.
Yeah, and you saw on kind of the split focus of the fight, it's a kill trade on both sides with a double kill picked up for that Katarina, and at the end of this fight, it's going to result in a 4 kill and now an extra assist we saw right before this replay for the Katarina. So someone that was down half the amount of CS and a kill to the Orianna in mid lane has now skyrocketed. It's still down in CS, but 4-1-1 compared to 2-3-0. Already has Merc Treads in addition to pieces for that Hextech Gunblade picked up.
And importantly, they have the Infernal Dragon, which will help a lot of their team scale up and be much stronger in the late game. And we were talking about how a Katarina from behind, very hard to play, especially against a lot of shields that RMU's team has. RMU being way too aggressive, going to plenty of kill trades, letting that Katarina back into the game could be a big problem. They do have plenty of tools to allow the Katarina to run wild. We're talking about the shields on the side of RMU. The GVSU has plenty as well with the Shen ultimate and the Lulu, just general E and R, keeping one member alive for a long time, probably gonna be that Katarina.
West Coast Carry decides he's going in, but dead. And Nasty winds up going down. West Coast Carry and his team look to be focusing down on this bottom lane tower.
Another nice play with the Kled, showing that RMU is pretty comfortable playing with it. That's the second time that they've been able to use it to get a kill down the bot lane. This one's also able to grab the bot turret, now up 2-0 in the turret count. And you get to see how annoying it is to kind of deal Shen against the Kled. He's so busy trying to push out the top lane, not able to join down there. Sure, he has the double global advantage, but if he can't deal with the push, eventually Kled will just keep forcing plays. You can only match some of them.
And you use that stand united in the mid lane to get the extra kill down onto the, what was Lee Sin with the fight that Katarina wound up starting. So already, RMU, they have an advantage in this game. Let's not forget the fact that they are still about 2,500 gold ahead of GVSU. But GVSU is definitely putting up a fight here. The bottom side of the map seemed to be where their strong point was, but West Coast Carry has made multiple visits down to that bottom side after taking the top side of the map to try to equate things. GVSU put up a strong fight, definitely stronger than Central Michigan did against RMU last week. We'll have to see, though, if they're able to kind of hang into it, because it's only a 2,500 gold lead right now, but it still is only 14 minutes into this game, and things can snowball from here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for both teams, if Katarina is able to clean up a fight and then they take some objectives off it, all of a sudden GVSU is back in it. So we see, once again, West Coast Carry getting right on to M Nasty, this time joined by Shen.
Culling,
gets taunted
though,
up.
the Stand United, the taunt to lock him up, and West Coast Carry, this time it's him biting off more than he chew.
It seems to be the story for RMU, generally taking favorable trades, but then getting caught out and dying for it. This time looks like it's Mordio's turn.
Yeah, he wants to just counter jungle away these Raptors, but he's going to try to collateral damage himself away. The Katarina goes forward. Wild Grip to keep her alive. The Shumpo means that she got the resets. The teleport is coming in from Shen at the same exact time. The rest of RMU have to back away, and they just keep giving away kills to GVSU.
I mean, at some point they got to be worried here. I mean, sure, they're still up about 1,500 gold, but they still, for the side of GVSU, haven't grabbed any turrets. There's a lot of standing gold available for them to be able to come back into this game and actually even the gold up. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to grab this one, though. RMU putting up a defense around that mid-outer.
GVSU have, for the time being, grouped up in mid lane. Shen is going to wind up waddling back to top, but this gives M Nasty a lot of free time alone in the bottom side of the map. So 0, 3, and 4 Lucian, despite getting some early lane advantages, definitely been the focus. Is going to get some solo tower gold on the bottom side of the map, though. Evens things back up to only about a 500 gold lead for RMU. So those 2,500 gold lead that was there 30 seconds ago after 2 given up kills in a tower has almost been equated.
Right, I mean, we talk about how they have a lot of shields, so it can be annoying to play the Katarina from behind, but if you're even, it's actually not that bad because they don't have a ton of CC to stop the Katarina from going wild in their team. You basically have no hard CC aside for the Orianna ultimate. So, I mean, it's not quite the old Katarina that was as dependent on her ultimate for getting her damage off, but she's still extremely mobile, and you want to be able to lock her down to actually kill her, and that can be difficult when you have no lockdown.
Well, they have one exhaust on their side, so it's either the Katarina or the Lucian that they're going to wind up having to shut down by using that summoner spell, if it is available. Evan RL does not have that quite yet up for any fights that may ensue. There's an Ocean Drake spawning in about 30 seconds. Could be where we see both of these teams try to put their focus, but the mid lane is also kind of opened up here. 2 towers down for the side of RMU. GVSU had already been pushing down on that mid lane tower, so they want to get priority here. The collateral damage did come across onto Lulu, try to get something done. Schnellrun actually going to go in, gets the kill on the Mordio, the Wild Growth there to keep him alive. Evan RL is going to empowered Mantra onto the Scuttle Crab. Quick game, going to flash over the wall, and that's actually going to be RMU giving up a kill, most importantly on the jungler right before Dragon.
Mordio is just playing this way too aggressive. He had that initial invade on the top side, as we West Coast Carry potentially getting caught out there, does escape. But yeah, Mordio had that nice invade on the top side on the Krugs to get the first kill, and it looked like he was playing extremely well, but he has not let up his aggression at all. and continues to get caught out for it.
Nasty getting chunked down, the Command Shockwave being dashed away from. That's Command Shockwave used on a single target with the Dragon now spawning. Schnell Run on the bottom side of the map has put down some vision in the river area around Dragon. We'll see if it's going to be GVSU going for that Ocean Drake, my favorite Drake, or if it's going to be Priority being placed down into this mid lane tower. They've already poked some damage down onto it. Could be the second tower of the game.
Well, it looks like Schnell Run has already started it off with Nasty trying to keep the team of RMU focused more around the mid lane. They are going to move in here, but Mordio has respawned. He's back in range. Could go for a contest, so it's getting low already. They do secure it.
Oh, but the Cloud Ultimate comes in. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Down on the Schnell Run. He's going to wind up going in and out. Katarina jumped into the backline, but immediately winds up falling. Palmy using the True Chop Rock, hits multiple people, but Noobs or Russ has joined the fray off of Stan United. Nasty is going to trade a kill down onto Mordio. Now that the front line is here, it's a little bit more difficult for the side of RMU to clean this fight up. A flash over the side of the wall there from Pinks will get him the safety. It's a 1-for-1 trade, but a Dragon going over to GVSU.
GVSU had the chance to win that fight so much harder. The Katarina went in, the Shen ult was not on top of her. It was more focused on the back line. It allowed RMU to heavily focus down the Katarina and kill her at the start of the fight. And after that, it was still a 4v4 and a little hard for RMU to actually push through and win that fight with the healthy Shen. So you think if they played that a little bit better, as Nasty gets caught out by Pinks, he goes down quickly.
Nasty has made acquaintances quite well with Pink's Orianna Ball this game. 1-4-4 on the Lucian, and that actually translates from RMU potentially losing a fight in a Dragon into getting a mid lane tower.
Right, that's a huge issue, and I think you see that GVSU's comp is slightly hard to play into RMU's. A lot of short-range champions for GVSU. Lucian, notoriously short-range. Katarina, obviously a melee assassin. Lee Sin and Shen melee as well. So if GVSU can't actually get onto the backline of RMU and blow them up quickly, they could be in a lot of trouble. And we'll take another look at this fight, and you'll see just how desynced they were on going in on a target.
Yeah, and this is originally started by GVSU picking off the Grays earlier on, setting up vision, controlling this area, but as you mentioned, once the Cloud Ultimate goes down, Katarina kind of just gets stuck in the pit and left for dead.
Right, and you saw the Shen ult come in super early onto Lee Sin. Just because the Cloud ult was targeting does not mean that person's actually in danger. You need to focus on your Katarina and keeping her up in the fight. It also forced Lulu fairly far back, and so she couldn't get in range to use her ultimate on the Katarina either. Now after that, it looks like both teams are going to disengage. You see RMU with a slight health advantage, so it's no surprise to see them trying to push, as well as having a lot of range champions. And then Nasty thinks he can wave clear this at 350 health. Not the case.
No. Just a couple seconds after that, you would see Nasty meeting his fate at the hands of an Orianna Ball, that we're going to cut back to live because it looks like Mordio been chunked down in this mid lane push here. RMU going to be getting a little bit more aggressive towards this mid side of the map, but GVSU are there to kind of meet them. West Coast carries on the opposite side of the map from the rest of his team, potentially looking for a flank, but it does look like this is going to be scattered out by GVSU.
Yeah, Mordio being low is something we've seen plenty of this game. He is constantly getting caught out of position, and I mean, I expected more out of him after that first invade. It looked like he was mechanically very skilled on Graves with that flash out of the Shen taunt, but since then, not terribly impressive. Has not done a good job converting his lead for the rest of the team, and RMU still up 1.5k gold, but they've been floating around this number for a long time now, and they've just generally been over-aggressive.
Yeah, and RMU at this point in time last week had already won both of their games against Central Michigan, so if that has kind of changed your tune and you think you might be a GVSU fan, of course, get on Twitter and let us know. If you think that you've changed your mind, you can either hashtag GVSU, hashtag RMU, of course, tweet at uLoL and let your voice be heard. I know, personally, I still have some faith in RMU. I still think that they have overall a better composition for the later stages of the game, but I am getting a little bit concerned about how over-aggressive they are being.
For sure. I think a lot of the things that GVSU have been able to turn was off the back of RMU over-aggression. They had a couple nice uses of the Shen ult. They had that one play where Katarina opened up onto Orion in the mid lane with the Shen ult. But for the most part, a lot of it has been RMU just brute forcing things when they really don't need to.
Well, RMU has the esports program, has the support staff behind them. When you talk to the players and say that their style is calculated, definitely looking like...
I don't know what kind of math they're doing this game.
I think the math is a little bit off right now, and their calculations forgot to carry a 0 somewhere because the aggression meter has been turned up to 11 in this one, and it is starting to kind of, you know, hinder them a little bit. It is 9 kills to 11 in favor of GVSU. They still have the overall better decision making on a map-wide basis, but a lot of that is coming out from the fact that West Coast Carry was able to get such far lane advantages over his opponent in Shen. Of course, you're going to have Kled as your quote-unquote tanky character is not going to wind up matching up against the Shen in the later stages of the game, and has a lot of offensive capabilities, not a lot of defensive capabilities like the Stan United.
The big concern, of course, is, those ults that come in later in the game by Kled. He can easily get pulled into an enemy team where he doesn't really want to go that deep and focus down. And then the rest of RMU does not follow up that well on a Kled if he ends up too far into the enemy team. No one else really wants to go diving, and it is just that Kled pick. So a lot of RMU wants to kite and deal with the dive coming in from GVSU, and West Coast Carry is going to try and counter-engage most likely. But we'll have to see how that pans out. Just 22 minutes into the game now. Plenty of time, plenty of team fights left in this game.
Yep, and someone who's going to love those team fights is GVSU's Katarina. QXQ already 5-2-1 on this pick, has just gone back, as I mentioned this, and completed the Zanya's Hourglass. The Hextech Gunblades picked up. Pretty much Katarina online at this point.
Yeah, Katarina, definitely a huge threat in this game now. It's going to be on the rest of GVSU to actually follow up on her engages. Mordio looking for the invade again. Got to be a little careful. He seems like a fairly squishy Graves. I don't know why, but I feel like I see him taking more damage than I see out of any other Graves. I don't know if his runes and masteries are different or something, but definitely looks squishier. I've seen Lulu chunking him out 1v1 plenty of times.
Well, he's got some Merc Treads. It's pretty much his only defensive item, and it might be the trade-off there. People always have like those skins that they feel like deal more damage. The Mafia Graves is that skin, but maybe he just takes more damage since they've changed Graves into a jungler.
Who knows? Who knows? As we see, for the most part, RMU in a 1-3-1 type setup. It is surprising to see that this is the lane assignments that both teams are going for. You think RMU would favor the 4-1, and it would be GVSU who wants the 1-3-1, but Katarina's mid lane, and they're sticking M Nasty and the rest of the team up in the top side.
Well, to counteract the Orianna split push, which isn't necessarily something you see every single game. They are, as you mentioned, sending Lucian up to that top side, but that does expose the Dragon on the bottom side. West Coast Carry is a scary Kled. No one really wants to go toe-to-toe with them unless your name moves RS the Shen, but he is all the way back into his side of the map because of Kled's pushing power with that Titanic Hydra. The second Ocean Drake of the game goes over to RMU. We'll see a Mountain Drake within the next 5 minutes or so, and that's going to wind up being a point to be contested, because that will be one of those drakes that spawns up that really helps you kind of knock things down, especially for GVSU. You want to have that for the extra objective damage, and of course, you'll have 3 stacks of Dragon, as we now see Noobs R Us getting the better of the Kled in these trades. Now has the Sunfire cape picked up for himself. Of course, when you're Kled and you wind up missing your abilities, you're not going to deal a lot of damage. But M Nasty on the top side, pulling away from this red buff here. But West Coast Carry taking so much damage, does wind up getting Scarl back in these trades. That's the annoying part of the Kled, is even if you're a tank, you eventually whittle him down, he's going to wind up coming back up with another health bar. Does have to wind up using the charge to charge away. So Shen already getting some of the better trades in this deal. Now going to use the Stan United top side. Sees the rest of his team fighting up there. Is he going to want the flash taunt onto the Graves on the opposite side? Katarina, meanwhile, is going to roast down Evan RL, whereas he got into getting some resets. Now Lee Sin coming in. Schnell Run going to kick Graves into the wall. Quick game, picked up a quick kill off that one. 2 kills picked up by GVSU as they're playing both sides of this map.
That was a great play by GVSU. They got a heavy trade onto West Coast Carry, so they know that he cannot TP in to join that fight. Despite the fact that Lulu was roaming down there, she turns around. Noobs R Us gets his ultimate onto QXQ. He's slightly low, but the rest of RMU was not grouped up enough to actually take that fight at all. And so we're talking about the kind of lane setups that are important. The fact that Orianna was not really there at the start of that fight was a huge issue. They're going to try and burn this Baron down now, but they are getting contested by RMU.
Well, West Coast Carry teleports in, blast cones over the wall. The command shockwave goes out as well, but Schnellrun's able to secure the Baron, and the Zanya's Hourglass keeps Katarina alive. West Coast Carry demounts and has to run away. A flash forward there from the side of GVSU. They're going to pick up a kill, but they do trade their lives for Lulu on the backside. It's going to be a shutdown going over to Pommy. Buy pinked extremely low. GVSU, they got the Baron. They don't want to be too greedy. It looks like they are going to back away.
And RMU now has given up a Baron buff. The gold lead is almost back to even. And we talk about how GVSU has a lot of turrets up available to take with this. It is a little hard to push with their comp. Not that much range, not great siege, but they will try to grab some turrets here and even out that gold even further.
Well, we're talking about GVSU not only just having a lot of gold on the map, but a lot of expectations are kind of being shattered at this point in time. This is the quick Baron in response to a pickoff that GVSU got because they were playing multiple sides of the map and utilizing that Shen Stan United.
And overall, it's a good contest by RMU. West Coast Carry goes in. We see the Orianna ult hit multiple members of GVSU, but they're not actually able to get anyone down. QXQ lived through it. Quick Game lived through it. So despite how that looked like it could be hard, it's especially dangerous to take a Baron versus an Ezreal Orianna combo. They were not strong enough yet in the game to actually blow up the members of GVSU who were taking that Baron buff.
Well, now we have 4 members strong with the Baron buff, as we see Some quick zoomed out motions here, both the top and the bottom side of the map pushing in favor of GVSU. They have Shen available with the Stand United, with the teleport, so the map pressure is on them. And as you mentioned, GVSU, one going for a bit of a split push comp. Looks like they are the ones that are currently in a 4-1 setup. Or I guess 8-1-4 setup with Shen on the top and the rest of the members in the mid lane. But as you did mention before, there's a lot of money to be cashed in on this map. Shen pushing away on that top side. There's still an outer tower up there for the side of RMU. So the last one in the game going to be rotated up by mNasty. They pick up a third tower kill here. Now GVSU are the ones with the gold advantage. And a Baron buff still to boot to push and pressure RMU on the map.
Right, so we see RMU trying to answer with a mid lane push of their own, but someone has to go back and deal with that Shen eventually. And the scary thing is, Shen has both globals available, no one on RMU does. So the rest of the team will have to be extremely safe when they go and deal with that Shen split push. Right now, West Coast carries up there, grabbing some minions, but Mordio's still caught pretty far forward.
Yeah, he's getting a little bit aggressive. Has to use the collateral damage to get himself out of it. The Culling's going to land on some minions with the Orianna shields, the Karma shield, going to be keeping Mordio alive. Nice and healthy. It does force Noobs R Us to rotate around towards the rest of his team, but it looks like his team content to just continue pushing out these waves now. There's still a bottom lane pushing up that they can rotate to. The one thing that GVSU does not have established quite yet is this vision control that we see Noobs R Us and Schnellrun now trying to get, and that is one thing stopping them from pushing too far onto the opponent's side of the map.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that GVSU cannot get a little bit more off this Baron buff. We talk about how their team comp struggles to siege up. You see them unable to really force RMU under their turret and actually threaten them with any kind of chunks. You don't have an Orianna ball that you can kind of send around under the turret and try and get people low. It makes it much harder for GVSU to grab objectives. They will probably have to settle with just getting this Mountain Dragon that's going to be spawning in a little over a minute, as they can't quite find any other openings in RMU.
Might not be the most effective use of their Baron buff, although they did take it while they were still at a net negative for their gold value. We see quick game and QXQ. They're going to get caught up on a ward here. Kel already, the Lulu going down low, but QXQ going to go forward, gets the Shen Stand United. They're going to try to lock on to buy pinks, and they will. On the backside, though, Pami's trying to get a trade kill with the Zani's Hourglass pop. Now GVSU's Katarina going down to Evan RL. Super, super low. Will get the Shumpo reset. Will be able to take him down, but he's going to trade his life. We saw the Kled charge being used as well to get Kled into range, but Mordio now going up against mNasty. Looks like the collapse is coming in. We missed the Sonic Wave, so no resonating strike, but the Dragon Kick backwards onto Kled's going to save his AD carry. It's a 2-for-2 trade.
Very scrappy fight in the jungle, mostly off the back of QXQ's playmaking. Quick game got obliterated right at the very beginning of it, and QXQ tried to snowball through the fight as much as he could, eventually goes down, ending up in a 2-for-2. And not bad for GVSU overall. Still down 1,000 gold. That Mountain Dragon respawning soon. Both teams are going to be resetting, trying to get back on the map and get some vision control. Slightly better for GVSU already right now, though.
Yep, but from the side of RMU, you've weathered away that Baron Storm that you wanted giving up to GVSU. Beforehand, you were about 1,500 gold ahead of GVSU, and now it's GVSU about 500 gold ahead of you. So altogether, the Baron global gold and maybe a tower being all that you gave up to the side of GVSU as they want to get into another scrappy fight here. West Coast carry now, he's gotten that Phantom Dancer, not taking a ton of damage from the Lee Sin, and still continue to trade extremely aggressively, has the extra critical strike chance with the Titanic Hydra proc and a Black Cleaver to shred away through what armor Lulu and Lee Sin have. And that's actually going to be a Mountain Dragon going over to the side of RMU. They wind up tying up the Dragons 2 apiece.
That Phantom Dancer on West Coast carry is an interesting buy, we'll call it. I don't think that's exactly what you see a lot of Kleds going with their third item. Nice to get some extra damage on there, but as the only frontline member on the side of RMU, you think it would be a little bit more beneficial to get some tanky stats, get some extra resistances in there. He has a pretty large health pool already just with Titanic and Black Cleaver. That's why you wouldn't mind seeing some extra armor and MR to back up that health pool. But I guess he just has a different way of playing Kled than we've seen so far.
Well, Mark, I might not be an analyst, but I do know his name is West Coast Carry and not West Coast Tank. So
True.
Maybe that's why, but the Phantom Dancer buy.
Lucian top, let's go.
Oh man, don't say it. We already got one Lucian in this game. We don't need another one. So we see here, West Coast Carry going for a bit of more aggressive buy here, though. Buy pinks, good command Shockwave going to lock up, deal a ton of damage to the entire team of GVSU. The Wild Growth does come in on the Katarina though, so the knock up in the slow will find a kill onto Orianna. And now it's going to be GVSU collapsing on the Pami and Evan RL, although it does look like that West Coast Carry's joined the fray with the teleport. Titanic Hydra wailing away, but he's already lost all of his HP. West Coast Carry, no Scarl available, no life available, is going to wind up going down. GVSU collapsing onto the remaining members of RMU, who are just running towards their opponent's base. QXQ gets another one. Zanya's Hourglass keeps him alive. Pommy trying to dish out as much damage as possible. He will not survive. It is 4 kills for none in favor of the underdogs.
In a surprising fight for RMU, obviously. I don't think they had any idea they were getting collapsed on the bot lane. Pinks just blast cones right over the wall into GVSU, and their formation is in shambles. They're a team that wants to fight front to back and kite back slowly, but instead you see Karma flashing forwards, trying to get some extra shielding onto Pinks, who was caught completely out of position. And then it's too easy for the rest of GVSU to collapse onto the exposed members of RMU. West Coast Carry TP'd in, tried to get involved, but there you see the weaknesses of that pretty high damage build that he's been going for, easily focused down by RMU, or by GVSU.
GVSU, though, they may not be able to get the forward vision established, but if RMU ever steps onto their side of the map, they're definitely showing them why that is their house and getting extremely aggressive. Some of these fights are extremely scrappy, but some of them are just well planned out.
Yeah, this is not a well planned out fight, though. Pinks goes right over the wall into 3 members of GVSU, goes down really early on. Nasty's joining in now. We see the TP coming in from West Coast Carry, but it's still a 5v3 here. He tries to turn it. Not a high health pool right now. Doesn't have many resists. Gets focused down extremely easy. And then there's nowhere for Evan, RL, and Pommy to go. They're running the wrong way, and it's just an easy chase down.
Yeah, and we did wind up seeing, as you mentioned, Mordio not in that fight whatsoever, so a 5v3 situation that the side of RMU just tried to absolutely force down. So if you were one of those guys that originally thought RMU was going to win this one, but then got a little more hyped up about #GVSU on Twitter, you might be feeling a little bit smug right now. Guardian Angel picked up for Lee Sin in addition to his Dead Man's Plate. We see Shen matching the Titanic Hydra on the side of West Coast Carry. Shen's going to be beefed up a little bit more due to the Sunfire Cape and the Spirit Vintage he's picked up. An Abyssal Scepter joins the inventory of Katarina. And this Lucian build went for the Blade of the Rune King first, then goes for a Phantom Dancer, has an Essence Reaver now, so that cooldown reduction is going to be kicking in. Of course, one of the slight buffs to Lucian was the smoothness of his overall combination of his double shot passive after all of his abilities get used. So that on top of the fact that he's going to be able to spam those quicker with the cooldown reduction coming in from the Essence Reaver, we might see some late game Lucian mechanics.
I'm looking forward to it. Have not seen it too much on this patch yet. It's got to have pretty quick fingers to play the Lucian now. And with the Baron respawning, it's going to be tough for both teams to grab it. RMU does not have a great front line to do so. GVSU does have a better one, but they're not like a great baiting comp. They don't turn off easily with hard CC. They'd much rather take a fight out in the open with Katarina able to turn out. Like this, you see Snellrun trying to look at Evan RL, but now he's caught a little bit out of position. Does ward hop back to his team. And GVSU stalling out to get something done around this mid lane.
Yep, so we do see now GVSU grouped up in the mid lane. However, the Shen's still split pushing on the top side. Elder Dragon's going to be available in about 1 minute and 30. That'll wind up being something that both teams may look to go after, as they do have 2 Drakes apiece for themselves. Baron live on the map, and as you mentioned, one of the teams a little bit better at baiting than the other one. Of course, one of the teams a little bit better at the split push game than the other, as well as double globals from Shen are still online. West Coast Carry's teleport going to be down for just a couple more seconds. Shen rotates himself down to the bottom side of the map, so he's going to be pushing down onto that side, whereas the remaining members of RMU, everybody kind of meandering around this mid lane. Even Kled doesn't want to get too far away while his teleport's on cooldown, because as you did mention, while both these teams may not be the best at turning off of Baron, both of them are actually extremely good at taking the Baron.
Right. Obviously a slight advantage in favor of RMU, better damage over time.
Got the Mountain
Shen,
Drake.
yeah, got the Mountain Drake. Shen is not the best for it. Lee Sin not the best for it. Katarina not the best for it. A little hard for them to really burn that down. The Lucian will be fine.
Yeah, I got the Blade of the Rune King Lucian helping me out here in addition to the Lee Sin, and Lulu may not be able to provide the most damage, but they do have a good way for Shen to just kind of tank it. So they might not take it the quickest, but they do wind up taking it
for sure. Definitely
relatively efficient.
Tankier on the side of GVSU, more damage on the side of RMU, which is a little surprising when you have a Katarina on the side of GVSU.
Yeah, you wouldn't normally say that, but the collateral damage comes out from Mordio, just trying to get himself out of that. When Snellrun did try to safeguard forward to try to get some damage, maybe a kickback onto the grades. At the same time, though, Shen's still pushing the bot lane, gets another tower down there for the side of GVSU. That's going to be the second tier 2 tower in the bottom lane going down. Shen rotating up from that bottom side, though. He's going to wind up being able to save his globals for whatever he needs to use them for. And now it's GVSU continuing to clear up vision, continuing to try to push forward. The vision control still not necessarily as good as RMU's, but they are getting priority around this Baron pit and making RMU react to where they are at this time around. Mordio dashing forward, throws down the smoke screen. He's got to be really, really careful. The one command shockwave from Orianna in this Baron pit area could spell doom for GVSU.
We see West Coast Carry grouped up with his team now, both split pushers joining up here, and West Coast Carry is going to kick things off with the Kled ult.
Well, they are using the charge here. Palmy's kind of on the opposite side of the rest of his team. Now, Noobs R Us doing a good job zoning everybody away, but West Coast Carry's jumped into the backline. Katarina wants to get into the fray, but Noobs R Us has already had to flash away. So the Shen is out of that, but the Katarina goes in. The command shockwave is going to wind up stopping that. However, it is going to be the first kill picked up by Katarina on the backside. West Coast Carry trying to zone away for the rest of his team, but his team is dying on the backside to just Katarina and Shen. It's going to be multiple kills picked up. The Guardian Angel being caught by West Coast Carry. He demounts. He will trade 1 kill for his life, but that's another 4-for-1 trade in favor of GVSU.
GVSU looking like they're going to keep pushing with the wave instead of looking for the Baron buff. I don't hate this idea. Crack those inhibitors while you can. Your team is much, much worse at dealing with turrets than it is around team fighting around Baron. So I actually like this decision a lot, not going and looking at the Baron, though they are peeling off to it now. The other team's jungler is alive, so you have to be a little bit more cautious. I wouldn't have minded seeing them continue to push, but it looks like they're going to focus more on the Baron now. We'll have to see if this works out for them. Not a bad decision either way. They're up almost 5,500 gold now just off the back of that team fight. And Lulu's on zoning duty against the Graves. It's going to be hard for him to get in for a steal here. Already
at 6,000 HP, and Nasty kind of giving a little bit of a love double tap over to the Graves as well, zoning everybody away. Mordio's nowhere in the area to steal this one. GVSU, underdogs coming into this one, showing why they were undefeated in their group. 4-1 fight, Baron buff, 5 towers to 3, 24 kills to 13. Yeah, they're looking super good.
Yeah, they got this game under control. It's going to be hard for RMU to come back from this one. I mean, they do have the tools to do it. GVSU's comp does have to dive in. RMU does have good enough tools for cutting out, but they have not been able to do so over the course of this game so far. No one's able to stop this Katarina from going crazy. We talked about how they don't quite have lockdown CC to hold her in place for people to hit her, and you see they're struggling to deal with her. Now GVSU looking at this Elder Dragon.
Yeah, they are going to wind up starting it up. This is a bit dangerous. They have Baron buffs, so they could wind up pushing out lanes, but instead they decide to prioritize the objective. This could be a 5v5 fight. Clyde charge is available, and we see West Coast Carry off to the side of the fight. We'll see if he winds up starting this one up or not. The Dragon down below half HP. Side of RME are kind of split a little bit, but there comes the Clyde charge to speed everybody up. They're going in. The Redemption's already been popped by the side of GVSU. They're trying to start it out. The jungler goes down. The Elder Dragon's in the fray as well, but Noobs R Us is tearing to tank up as much as possible. Katarina goes golden. A command shockwave locks up multiple members, but M Nasty winds up picking up a kill onto West Coast Carry, and they've turned off the Dragon because that's reset, but they're trying to keep going forward for this fight. Schnell runs, Guardian Angel gets popped. A dash forward, a flash out for the Katarina, and the Shen has respawned as well as the Lee Sin. They pick up 2 more kills. The Ezreal trades the Katarina for his life, but quick game using the Baron buff minions to his advantage. Is he going to be able to pick up the final kill on Palmy? The red buff slows him down. The Whimsy goes forward. Help Picks gets the ace. GVSU, a 5-for-1, pushing into the base of RMU.
Yeah, they're riding the super creeps into the bottom inhibitor turret now. They might have enough time to end the game. It's 10 seconds before Mordio will be the first one back alive. Once again, going to be having to make a one-man stand against GVSU, who might look to end the game here.
And we already saw it in the BTN twice. Mark, the #1 team had been eliminated from either side of the East and West, and RMU, #1 team in the North, looking super strong, favorited to win all of the campus series, are now going to face down a loss in Game 1 to the underdogs of GVSU. They focus the Nexus. They take a Game 1 victory.
That's a very surprising Game 1 on the side of GVSU. Even based off how the game started, it looked like RMU was totally in control of the early game. West Coast Carry had a ton of pressure. He was able to help his jungler get leads through that. He started making plays around the bot lane. You think RMU, based off what we saw, especially in their series last week, we're going to smash this game, but they get way too aggressive, keep getting caught out in their plays, and the snowballing Katarina, who should be shut down, is suddenly back into the game.
And not only that, but as you mentioned, Mordio making some over-aggressive plays out of the jungle, maybe not necessarily respecting Schnellrun, who was one of the players we wanted to really focus on looking at GVSU, whether it's the play calling, whether it's the fact that he can play some of these carry junglers. A lot of the game plan for GVSU revolved around him, and because he was able to deal with Mordio and being a little over-aggressive and kind of stabilize his lanes, get the Katarina a little bit further ahead because of some of these over-aggressive calls and being in the right place at the right time, they weren't able to respect what GVSU put together as a comp, and the Shen eventually took over the game.
Yeah, I mean, there's a combination of the Shen and Katarina. Eventually, you see that there's no way for them to lock down the Katarina, and with the amount of defensive tools available for GVSU, they can't kill her in time either, so she's basically able to out-damage a lot of the side of RMU, and I mean, you also have the Lucian who's going relatively unfocused in these fights because you're so busy trying to deal with this Katarina.
And the Katarina was a key component to a lot of the fights that GVSU were actually able to win. We got a couple of replays of some of those as well. These were a little bit later on in the game because GVSU did take a little bit of a while and a Baron to kind of stabilize in this one. But after that, they were able to be the ones baiting the Baron themselves and start turning these fights around off of the back of the Katarina resets and that Shen stand united.
Right, and this is what happens in a lot of the fights. West Coast carry goes in, tries to provide some threat onto the back line of GVSU, but that's not the important thing. The thing to watch is the Katarina. So when they group up here on the side of RMU, Katarina goes in, she receives the Shen ult, she's still at half health, able to finish off by Pink because of that extra health pool. Also with the Lulu ult on top of her. In the meantime, like we said, the tank of West Coast carry, because he didn't build very defensive, is able to basically get sold out by the Lucian. And you see the front line of GVSU outperforming the Kled pick.
Yeah, so that Phantom Dancer pickup for Kled maybe not necessarily working out the best for him. Once those two squishy threats in the backline, the Ezreal and the Orianna, who are kind of in the front line in that replay there, they just got the fight split up so different. Once those wound up going down, there was not much that RMU could do whatsoever in these fights.
And the hard part about GVSU's comp is playing it when you're trying to siege and things like that, but we see they go for the Elder Dragon and instead try and force around that. I mean, RMU takes the bait in a sense. I don't know if it's right to call it bait, but they take the fight, and after they win that one, they're able to push in through that bot lane, and that was the really important thing, was that they weren't sieging with their comp. They knew never to try that. They basically never grouped up and sat around trying to poke under a turret. They went and did other things.
Well, that game was a bit of a doozy, but we are going to have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll see if GVSU can close out this series surprisingly 2-0, or if it's going to be RMU trying to regroup and take game number 2. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. We just saw GVSU take control of a humdinger of a Game 1, Mark. RMU came into this as the favorites, but what do they got to do to shape up for Game 2?
I don't know, probably not use the word humdinger. I gotta say, that was really, really surprising, but for the most part, I thought RMU threw this game. I mean, well played by GVSU. Don't want to take anything away from this victory. It was hard fought. They played their comp well. They did everything right. But based off the start that RMU had, I think they should have been able to run away with this game, and it just came down to them being way too overconfident.
Well, we did see them run away using a couple of Cloud ultimates, but that's not the way that you want to use them. So we'll have to see if they wind up changing anything up in the picks and bans phase. Game number 2 is going to be going on in just a second. We'll have to see if that Cloud pick is something they prioritize as high as it did in the previous matchup, or if they're going to wind up going back to something a little bit more traditional in the top lane.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to look at, as well as what to do about that Katarina. That was a massive problem for them. Overall, I like their comp. If they had a more traditional tank who was a better peeler, like a Maokai, like a Poppy, even like a Nautilus, someone who can just focus down that Katarina when she wants to go in, I think they have a much easier time. The Kled tries to go in on the enemy team, not able to do that much, generally dealt with pretty easily by just Lucian himself being so mobile and able to dash around all the time, and the Kled pick was definitely not impressive. As we see, surprise, surprise, Shen Katarina ban, kind of a problem that last game.
Yeah, GVSU not going to get their hands on two of the biggest pickups for their team as to why they wind up winning game number 1. So RMU already making adaptations in their own ban phase for here. We'll have to see what the picks wind up coming through for. Same bans for GVSU though. The Rumble, the Kha'Zix, the Rengar, already focusing down on Mordio's jungle pool again. The Malzahar being another ban away. We'll see if the Graves is something that they try to take away from the side of GVSU or not.
Yeah, we'd have to see that, because honestly, Mordio's Graves did not look super impressive. I did not get a chance to look at if his runes and masteries were right, but for the most part, he looked way squishier than most Graves that I saw, and it did not look like a super strong pick for him. So I like the Rengar Kha'Zix ban, assuming that he's more comfortable on those. We see GVSU grabbing the Mundo. Not something that's super in the meta right now, but I don't hate the pick. I think it's something that could be on its way back with a lot of the traditional tanks getting nerfed, and a couple of the keystone changes as well.
Well, we are going to see if GVSU wants to get the Graves for themselves, because it looks like the RMU has said that Chanel runs Lee Sin was going to be an issue. They picked that one up, but in something that seems like we got into a time machine, like back to 2014, 2015, we have a Gnar versus Mundo matchup.
This is a 2005 kind of comp you're looking at right now.
2005?
2015, Season 5. Those are the same things in my head, both ends in the 5. But yeah, it's definitely it's a pretty surprising comp to see coming out of here for GVSU. They also grabbed the Ahri, another assassin pick on the side of QXQ. A little safer than the Katarina pick. If you land the charm, you can go in. If you miss it, hang back. You have a little bit more mobility in terms of being able to just dash around, not needing to rely on those daggers and going in. So no surprise to see him still picking an aggressive champion overall, though. RMU grabbing the Cassiopeia and the Ashe. Way more CC this time around for their team comp, but still a more standard team comp overall.
Yeah, the Ahri pickup for the side of GVSU, also less explosive than the Katarina as far as the team fight situations go. However, a little bit more of a standard and goes toe-to-toe with the Cassiopeia pick in the mid lane, but now it's going to be RMU going for something a little bit more traditional with most of their team composition. They do have a Gnar on the top side of the map. We'll see what they wind up going for from the support pickup. Karma's still available. Would not be surprised to see that being locked in again. The Nami actually is going to be what they go for here. So a lot of CC potential coming out from that bottom lane duo of Evan RL and Pommy. It looks like that they've also kind of gone back to their traditional roles of Evan RL picking up the Ashe and Pommy picking up the Nami. But we'll have to see as we cut into the draft recap to see if they've actually swapped things up again for game number 2.
Yeah, who knows what RMU was doing that last game. Obviously, they were playing pretty different than what we would have expected, way too aggressive, those kinds of problems. It is interesting to see the Nami pick over the Karma pick. Maybe it is just a case where Evan RL is the only one who can play Karma, and they wanted to prioritize it higher in the game 1 draft. So that's why they did that. And now that Evan RL is back on the Ashe, maybe Pommy doesn't play that Karma. That's why he's playing that Nami here.
Well, this time around, it's definitely going to be an interesting top side of the map. A Lee Sin versus Rek'Sai matchup, 2 blind junglers. A Gnar versus a Mundo matchup, 2 top laners we don't normally see whatsoever. So it's going to be a little more interesting here. What do you think about the compositions going to this one? Are we still favoring RMU even though they lost game number 1?
A little bit. I still think that they are probably individually the stronger team, though you see that their teamwork, I would not say, was any better than GVSU's. The one thing I do like is their comp, again, a little bit this time around. The Mundo doesn't really fit fit into the comp that I'm seeing out of GVSU that well. There are a lot of speed ups with the Lulu and the Sivir. Your Mundo can run wild on the enemy team. But against Cassiopeia, who's one of the ideal champions for burning down a big frontliner, that's my only concern. She will probably be picking up the Morello Nomicon and having high DPS while negating the healing a little bit.
Well, I got to go with RMU in this one, mainly because I love 3-game series. So guys, who do you think is going to take game number 2? Get on Twitter, let us know, either hashtag RMU if you're like me and you want 3 games, or hashtag GVSU if you're like Mark or whoever else wants to have.
I said RMU too.
All right, you did say RMU. I don't know. See, you said RMU in game number 1, and I just assumed that you swapped your opinion to GVSU after this game.
You keep accusing me of being a flip-flopper. I only did that once.
You only did that once?
Week. It was the first time we had a best-of-3 series, so it was really the only time I had a flip-flop.
But if you flip one way and flop back the other way, it's still a flip-flop.
Right, but I did it once. You say like I do it all the time. That's not the case.
All right, well, we're going to be heading into game number 2, so get your opinions out there on Twitter. Let us know if you're a flip-flopper, if you're a true blue fan, or a true red fan. Depends what side you're on in this game. We're going to jump onto the rift for game number 2, though, so you guys can see, is this going to go the full 3? And we're going to flip-flop, or is it going to be GVSU taking a surprising 2-0?
I think it's funny that you call me out for flip-flopping. The team's literally flipped sides.
Yeah.
They are now GVSU on the blue side, RMU on the red side this time around. Both teams look like they're heading into that kind of standard point defense, line of scrimmage, whatever you want to call it, just guarding those jungle entrances. Last time around, we saw GVSU looking for maybe a little bit of a cheesy level 1 invade. Not doing it this time around. A little surprising considering Mundo is one of the strongest level 1 champions in the game with his Q spam. He's able to harass a lot of champions off of their point. He can go in for solo invades every now and then. That's one of the things you used to see with him a lot. Nara's also pretty strong level 1 though, so maybe they're just going to go for a safer one. As we see supports trading the Spell Thief's procs. Both a little richer, probably the richest champions in the game now.
Yeah,
One of the few times you can say that as a support player.
Well, Quick Game going to be the richest player in the game as he used all 3 of his Spell Thief stacks. That's 15 gold compared to the 10 picked up by Pommy. Ha! Checkmate.
This game's over. Call it. GVSU 2-0. Support's got a couple more stacks of the Spell Thieves off.
That's pretty much it. But GVSU and RMU both content to stay this one a little bit safe. RMU, they may have quelled a little bit of their aggression, may have gone back onto the calculated side of their calculated aggression description. We'll have to see if things change up for them in game number 2. Game number 1, they were winning the early game, which is that they kept overstepping, which is something that we see a lot of the Campus Series teams do. So as someone as favored in the tournament as RMU, who has the infrastructure, who has the coaching and support staff, you would expect them to not do that.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a little bit of a disrespect game out of RMU. They started off really strong. Their previous series, they destroyed people. They were probably still riding high off that a little bit. They saw how the game started and they think, oh yeah, we're gonna roll this team. We don't need to be too reserved in our play. And then they overstep a little bit too far. And GVSU, we talk about the fact that they used their comp extremely well in the previous game. As soon as they let Katarina back in the game after being down 15 CS and killed in lane just 4 or 5 minutes in the game, the fact that she was able to bounce back, you know, QXQ showing he knows exactly how to play with that Katarina when she's actually online.
We see early lane advantage here for Evan RL and Pommy. The Ashe Nami lane going to be a little bit more of a pokey oriented lane than the Sivir and the Lulu. Sivir, of course, you really want to have scale up into the later stage of the game where she becomes one of the best wave clear and ricochet critting bots in the game. Whereas on the flip side, Ashe is going to be a little bit more about her initiations, especially at level 6. We wind up utilizing that Enchanter Crystal Arrow. That could be some of the things that RMU, if they do want to continue to play aggressive, will be looking for, as we do see some aggression early on from Mordio. This Lee Sin pickup for him, we saw GVSU and Schnellrun using it effectively in the early stages last game. This time it's Mordio showing that he's got the chops on his Lee Sin with some backup from Cassiopeia from the mid lane.
Doesn't look like they're done with this invade quite yet. They're going to start off on the blue buff once again. Schnellrun does not actually recall. He stays around. They're looking like they might want to contest it, but West Coast Carry has moved down into the top jungle as well from top lane, trying to secure this. We saw the Smite go down. Not sure if he finished grabbing that one. Don't see a blue buff on Ari. Gonna assume it's on Lee Sin. Yep, there it is.
There you go.
Another invade by Mordio. He plays really aggressive. He's just got to figure out when is time to back off. This time, knowing when it was not time to back off, stays in there and grabs that blue buff.
Well, that's going to be the issue when you have 2 of your allies coming down to collapse with you. So instead of being the lone wolf invading, he's going to be getting a little bit of help from his friends to help that one. West Coast Carry going to hop, skip, and jump away as Mundo with the grass proc coming in. Minions are there, so going to block some of these cleavers. West Coast Carry has to burn the flash, barely stays alive, 22 HP. Not even close, Mark.
Very scary as a Nara. I think a lot of Nara players sometimes discredit how vulnerable they can be when they don't have their passive up. You see how squishy that Nara is. And just getting in range for that empowered E auto attack by the Mundo was enough to almost finish off West Coast carry. Noobs R Us going to recall as well, teleport back in the lane. And I have a little bit of a guilty pleasure here, Tom. I'm going to tell you what it is.
Ooh.
I love watching Mundos turn their W on and off to get last hits. Just like that little like tick and knowing exactly how to time it. I don't know why, I just like seeing that play.
I feel like that's less impressive than the Aurelion Sol being able to expand his W and contract it, considering the Mundo W just kind of constantly deals damage.
Well, I don't mean when you just leave it on and wave clear, Tom. I mean when you
No, like
when
when you specifically last hit with
Oh
it.
yeah, I'm not saying it's super impressive. It's not the craziest thing in the world, but I mean, I don't know why. I just like seeing those little like masteries of like auto attacking the W, timing all that quite right into the turret. You just like seeing nice CSing. You know, you appreciate when someone has like their wave clear figured out and exactly how to tick down a minion.
I can feel that. I'm gonna like watching M Nasty Sivir do that in the later stages of the game when one ricochet crit just clears an entire wave of minions. That's a guilty pleasure.
That's not a guilty pleasure. Everyone likes that when you just blow a wave up with one W. It's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, but it's going to be a little while before we get there, and Pinks has had a little bit of help to get himself through this lane phase because they stole the blue buff away, and it was over to Lee Sin on the side of RMU. They are going to be donating the blue buff away to the Cassiopeia. Now Noobs R Us.
Oh,
a little
missed
bit
the Q.
too far forward. Mordio did wind up missing the Q, but it is going to wind up not mattering in the end of this one. The kill goes over to West Coast carry.
And you got to think about how he decided to use his summoner aggressively in the last engagement between top laners. You know, he's almost killed the Gnar, but not quite worth it because it makes it a very easy gank for the Lee Sin. He was a little too far caught out. Gnar goes aggressive. West Coast carry sets that up for a pretty easy kill there. And not going to be too fun now for Noobs R Us, down 20 CS basically just 6 minutes into the game.
Yeah, we just see the Mundo trading aggressively up top using that Grasp of the Undying proc. However, he's not going to be able to get advantages in this lane over the half the time ranged Gnar, as we do see Fervor Battle actually picked up for Schnellrun on the Rex side. We haven't seen Rex side in competitive all too often. Normally see Courage of the Colossus get the Unburrow proc and get the extra shield. This time around going a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, with the Courage nerfs, it's not surprised to see some other things cropping up. Another surprising thing was the fact that we had the Grasp of the Undying on the Mundo. I understand that's much better for laning phase, but you don't get that many auto attacks against West Coast carry generally. It's a lot more cleaver spam. And you think he would have taken the new mastery to set up some heals for the rest of his team because the cleaver spam will constantly putting those marks on people. So I'm a little surprised to see his Keystone Mastery choice there.
Well, maybe playing a little bit greedier for the lane phase. We did see him getting some decent trade damage on the West Coast carry earlier, although he did wind up falling to a gank from the Lee Sin. Bottom side of the map continues to be a bit of a poke back and forth battle. 10 CS advantage for the Ashe in that lane. 52 to 31 CS advantage, due in part to the fact that Pinks did have a blue buff donated over to him, and multiple CS advantages we already talked about on the top side of the map here. So GVSU, now that this game has kind of settled into a more traditional lane phase style of things, falling behind RMU, the first blood and CS advantage is already accruing a 1.5. Gold lead is now.
Oh, nice ult.
QXQ turns and faces the paralyzing gaze. A solo kill for Cassiopeia.
That was super well timed, knowing that QXQ was going to turn to trade some more damage back onto him. Pinks hits him with the ultimate, secures another kill for RMU. This time a solo kill, up 30 CS in lane by Pinks.
Oh, Schnellrun getting a little too aggressive here. Pinks gonna get another kill donated over to him.
Oh man, you know what happens with Cassiopeia when she gets some early kills. She might be able to take over this game as Evan RL gets low in the bot lane, flashed on by Quick Game, able to pick up another kill.
Flash picks up the kill right there. His Quick Game gonna trade a kill on the bottom side of the map. So GVSU bottom lane getting advantages in the 2v2 trade situation, just like game number 1, but Pinks now has been unlocked. 2-0-0 on the Cassiopeia. Tear of the Goddess, a Negatron Cloak, and Burst Tower of the game going over there as West Coast carry picks up a solo kill topside, showcases the power of the Gnar when he does have that passive.
We see RMU once again getting a monster lead in this early game, even bigger this time around. We'll have to see if they're able to actually close this one out or if they keep playing loose, but we see Quick Game able to get another kill with his Lulu. That's the second time. He had that in the previous game as well in that heavy 2v2 trading.
Yeah, so already bottom side of the map advantages slightly for GVSU. However, the rest of the map is going very heavily in RMU's favor. 2 kills apiece on both of their solo laners. And this Lee Sin for Mordio, he's still continuing to play aggressive, still continuing to counter jungle, and it's working out way better than the Graves pick in game 1.
Yeah, it seems like he might have been doing one of those things that you tend to see in the collegiate scene. They're trying to play the meta champions when they're not necessarily their best picks. And I think it's a little bit more understandable to go for comfort here. And perhaps Mordio is just more comfortable on the Lee Sin because the Graves performance was definitely not super impressive.
This time around, he's definitely impressive. 0-0-2, sorry. Wanted to make him sound impressive, not dying. But has already helped his team accrue massive gold advantages, 15.3K to 11.9K at 9 minutes into the game. These are the types of games we saw RMU playing last week against Central Michigan. And to be fair, they didn't have as much of this advantage in game number 1, but they still had advantages basically off the back of things like this. Look at that, they were stopping moving so that Schnellrun was not going to be able to see them with that tremor sense, and they just melt through the Rek'Sai as they see him coming in from the mid lane.
Very well played by the combination of Tommy and Mordio. Starting to get the red buff. Quick Game wants to contest. He might be in trouble now. Has to burn the ultimate to stay alive. QXQ also coming in now to contest this blue buff, but it looks like Mordio will secure it. But can he get out?
Ooh, he dodges the charm, gets hit up by the Orb of Deception. However, Cassiopeia was collapsing from the mid lane, so it is going to wind up being GVSU kind of falling away. The farm alarm from Rek'Sai goes off because she's actually going top side of the map here, whereas now Noobs R Us has rotated down from the top lane as well. So now it's RMU continuing to play aggressive. They are the ones that are running GVSU around the map this time around, but GVSU are not able to respond. Spirit Rush already from Ahri though onto the bottom side. They're trying to take advantage of this bottom side of the map. Orb of Deception goes out, comes back in, picks up a kill onto Evan RL.
And QXQ able to pick up a kill there. Very much needed. Now we see them trying to get onto West Coast Carry. He's going to turn this 2v1, gets the first kill. Now he's got the grievous wounds. Yeah. There we go, onto the Mundo of Noobs R Us. Yeah, trying to walk through the turret.
Early Executioner's calling there, so West Coast Carry turns around the 1v2 situation. A little bit of help from the Rift Herald, so maybe a 1.5v2 here. Is now 5 pings flashes in, throws out the Miasma. Mordio's come up to play in this one as well. The Paralyzing Gaze did wind up coming out. They're able to get a first kill on the Lulu. Now they're turning on to QXQ, kicks him back in, flashes forward, misses the charm, but is still able to pick up a kill for Sivir down onto the Cassiopeia. That's a shutdown. Palmy's going to trade a kill back for that one though, with a teleport coming in from Noobs R Us. Mordio's going to finish off the kill onto Sivir, and will he be able to get out? The Cleaver winds up landing, but there's no ultimate available for Noobs R Us. This is going to be a trade in favor of RMU.
Getting a little scrappy though. Bypinks had a nice roam down to follow QXQ a little bit later after he had moved down to the bot lane to secure a kill. They get the 2-for-1. Bypinks does go down, gives up the shutdown, but that does buy time for West Coast Carry in the top lane to get some damage down. This turret will probably be able to finish it off with this wave here.
Yeah, so RMU, huge advantages across the map. This tower is going to push them over the 5,000 gold advantage mark at 11.5 minutes into the game. GVSU, they were able to capitalize on the over-aggression from RMU last game, but it looks like they are falling victim to it themselves. They're still trying to go around and punish RMU, but they just don't have the same composition. They don't have the same strategy from last game, and it feels like they don't know how to properly respond.
Right, and I think you got to give a little bit of credit to RMU as well, not playing quite as sloppy. Still playing very, very aggressive, a lot of jungle invades, a lot of fighting, but this time no big overextensions, and the Ahri wall behind doesn't snowball quite as hard, though. Tommy might be handing a kill back right now. We'll see if he's able to get out here. Doesn't look like it. Goes down to QXQ, but maybe Bypinks can trade back here.
Has to burn the wild growth. Bypinks continuing to get aggressive here. Now it seems Mordio's going to join the fray. So winds up Sonic waving. Does not land for a resonating strike, and they will be forcing GVSU back away. But that is a kill gifted over by Palmy, kind of doing a bit of a solo mission there.
Yeah, that's one of the things RMU definitely needs to clean up is players just getting caught out a little bit too much on their own.
Well, if RMU has kind of changed your opinions from potentially the end of game number 1, you still can tweet out at uLoL. Let us know who you think is going to win. Hashtag RMU, hashtag GVSU. This game going early game stages decisively in favor of RMU, but GVSU, they do end up having some scaling to later games. Sure, the Ahri can't snowball as powerful as the Katarina can from behind, but you do have a Mundo in the top lane who will eventually become an unkillable tank, although already cutting through some of that healing with a completed Morellonomicon and the Executioner's calling. And you do have M Nasty on Sivir, who the later the game goes will eventually just start dealing ridiculous amounts of damage.
Right, I think a lot of it also comes down to the Gnar and how much you can control the Mundo. Mundo will basically be pushing under turret as West Coast Carry continues to complete items. Will probably go for that Black Cleaver Frozen Mallet build, which is the staple on Gnar. Did grab the early Executioner's Calling, which I actually like a lot. Really hurts Noobs R Us ability to sustain in lane or even potentially chase you down. That is basically not a threat anymore. So good itemization choices there by West Coast Carry. Better than last game, I'd say, where he had that Phantom Dancer, which neither of us were a big fan of.
Ooh. And there we see him getting aggressive on the Mundo, cutting his healing on the opposite side of the map. Evan RL has to burn the ultimate and the heal to get himself out of that. When it looked like the side of RMU wanted to start that dragon, but they have to go and collapse down onto their bottom lane, who's fallen behind. Noobs R Us still continue to get aggressed by West Coast Carry underneath the tower. Winds up going mini. Is he going to be able to pick up the kill? The tower's on him. Is he going to be able to get out? The Hyper Proc will not save him, so a trade kill on the top side and a Dragon for RMU on the bottom.
Oh, so close by West Coast Carry being able to get that solo kill under the turret. I think he missed an auto attack and accidentally hit the turret once. If he was able to complete that one, he could jump out down to the bot side instead of needing to jump in to continue chasing. RMU, after that Dragon, is not done yet. They're grouping up around the bot lane turret. Looks like GVSU is there to push away that threat, and now Cassiopeia, by Pinks, not joining in on that, is instead hanging out like he wants to steal away a blue buff.
Well, it looked like that the side of RMU got a little bit of vision down and did spot out Schnell Run as well as QXQ on that bottom side of the map. Did not want to try to push their luck after taking a Dragon. Instead, want to try to push down on the tower. But with that ward being placed down, that's going to trigger a teleport in from West Coast Carry. We did have the tidal wave already coming out. Quick game gets knocked back. Wild Growth will not keep him alive. M Nasty now popping the on the hunt, but West Coast Carry and Evan RL are right there. A flash forward from the Ash does pick up the second kill. Evan RL tanking up the tower, dropping kind of low, but the ebb and flow and the safeguard will keep him alive. It's 2 kills for none.
Yeah, you see RMU converting with their teleport advantage here, picking off GVSU again. An excellent play by Pinks, sitting around the corner, using that vision control to his advantage, able to snipe out QXQ with his ultimate right as he tries to get back to the mid lane to wave clear.
That was nasty.
That was a well planned out play there by Pinks.
So RMU.
Bye-bye Pinks.
Bye-bye Pinks. RMU says bye-bye to QXQ in that trade as they take the second mid lane tower, the tier 2 going down 4 towers to none, 13 kills to 5. This is the RMU we expected to see in game number 1, and these are the kinds of plays we expected to see out of it.
Yeah, this is a really well-timed dive. The minion wave is not super healthy, but they don't need it with the teleport advantage. West Coast Carry and Mordio coming from the backside. Kick the Lulu in right away, and then an easy follow-up there by the rest of RMU onto Sivir. A little surprising to see Evan RL burn his flash to help secure that kill. I don't think M Nasty was going to get away from the Gnar, but hey, he's Nash. He wants to get some kills there. He picks up his first one.
Kill secure was the part of that one. He's actually gone back and completed his Essence Reaver off of that one, in addition to some Berserker's Greaves. Was a Static Shiv was the early pickup for Sivir, so going for some wave clear early on. West Coast Carry, though, trying to get a fight down, gets the Gnar against the wall on the Noobs R Us, has to flash away, but the boomerangs are there. A flash on Burrow there from Schnell Run as quick games come around the other side. Mini Gnar is going to be taking too much damage, and Schnell Run's able to get a kill with the Lulu coming in for an assist.
Yeah, you see West Coast Carry getting a little over-aggressive there. There's no pressure down anywhere else on the map. He's the only one really pushed up past River. Makes him an easy target for GVSU to collapse on. You got to be a little bit careful about going and trying to push advantages when there's not pressure being put somewhere else on the map. There's no Dragon available, no way to really punish GVSU for going down to collapse on him. Feeds a kill back over. Slight mistake there, but not the end of the world. RMU still up a little over 7K here.
Yep, and even though we see West Coast Carry going down to 4-2-2 scoreline, he still has another solo laner with 4 kills to his name, a 4-1-1 in Cassiopeia with a Morello Nomicon. Abyssal Scepter picked out. That tier is going to be very, very close to fully stacked now. Black Cleaver had been picked up by West Coast Carry on the top side. It looks like now it's going to be GVSU trying to make a teleport play. The Mundo uses the Ghost. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow goes down, but there's going to be no way for Evan RL to escape from this one. Even an assist coming in from the Rex, but by Pinks using that vision control again. Picks up another kill on the Ahri. Now it forces the ultimate out of quick game. Continuing to chase down. The blue buff is there. The speed up will not land from that poison proc here. By Pinks instead just forcing everybody else away. Also forces the bottom side of the map from GVSU to rotate up. Mundo kind of coming in here. Schnell Run getting cut off by the Miasma as well. It's a scary Cassiopeia.
And once again, you see RMU getting caught out of position. Definitely not the cleanest play we've seen from ahead during our time on the campus series. RMU definitely want to clean this up, but at least they're not losing any decisive team fights, not giving up any objectives. Still 0 dragons, 0 turrets on the side of GVSU. And while you wouldn't want to see people getting picked off like this, it's not the end of the world. They're still, pretty firmly in the lead here.
So RMU making sure that any advantages they do give up are just in the kills department, not necessarily translating into objectives. And it's only 18 minutes into this game, Mark. RMU are significantly far ahead. They've gotten themselves a huge gold lead, 14 kills to 7. Kind of looks like GVSU by the end of game 1, only this time it's happening twice as fast as feels like a repeat play up here. Now M Nasty joining the fray as West Coast Carry continuing to split push. Gets a Gnar over the wall though. He's going to be able to pick up a trade kill here. Will not wind up landing that last boomerang / rock toss on the Mundo, but now Cassiopeia is joining the fray. She's going to pick up a kill. The paralyzing gaze is dodged out by M Nasty. Flashes away. The tidal wave is there as the rest of RMU collapses, but they've kind of pushed out the rest of GVSU from this top side here. Mundo going to be going where he pleases, as it looks like by Pinks and a blast cone over the wall. Does wind up getting hit up by the Cleaver. Will not be able to chase down onto this Mundo. Mundo's
Goes where he pleases?
Yeah.
Is that what you're going to say?
I mean, I already said that once, so I didn't want to repeat it, but it looks like Mundo is literally going to go wherever he wants to recall here, and RMU will instead push down on this top lane tower.
You see West Coast Carry able to buy enough time for the rest of his team to collapse and help trade a kill back and keep the pressure up on this turret. That's the benefit of having multiple lanes pressuring at the same time. Even if the enemy team tries to collapse on you, you will often be able to follow. This time, West Coast Carry synced up better with his team. Still unfortunate to go down that early. They did have good vision in the topside jungle, so he saw it coming, but I don't know if he just missed it or he wanted to try and bait the fight for his team to collapse. Either way, not able to trade that well back. Still about a 7,000 gold lead. RMU stalling out a little bit. Haven't grown this lead in a couple minutes now.
7,000 is not a bad investment to start
7,000
out with.
before
at the
20 minutes
mark.
is definitely fine, but they've been there for a little while now.
They have stalled out a little bit. They've been on at 4 towers for a couple of minutes. The Dragon's going to be spawning in about 5 seconds. That should be something they should be able to take relatively uncontested, with West Coast Carry prepping for that by pushing out the bottom side of the map. They have been pushing into the mid lane, although GVSU is there with their Sivir to kind of wave clear. Cassiopeia is sitting on a healthy chunk of change, though. 2,000 gold in their inventory. Has yet to go back and spend that. Looks like after that trade went down on the top side of the map, West Coast Carry is content to kind of zone everybody away for RMU, as it looks like they might be trying to start up onto this Infernal Dragon, but West Coast Carry fancies himself a fight, jumps in, Nars in, the tidal wave comes down, they're going to land the CC chain onto Quick Game, followed by a bubble. He's going to wind up going down. The paralyzing gaze locks up the rest of the people in the front line here as the double kill comes across, make it a triple for West Coast Carry. He chases down the backside of the fight. It's going to be an ace in favor of RMU. How's that for some gold in their pockets?
That's definitely a way to expand your lead. They get an ace in the enemy jungle who is looking to potentially contest the Infernal Dragon. A big ultimate by Pinks turns the fight totally in RMU's favor, and then you get to see the advantages of having some early MR as he's matched up against Ari and Mundo, both heavy magic damage, able to kite out that 1v2 until his team was able to help him. And they, off the back of that fight, look like they might want to look at this Baron.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit better than going for the Infernal Dragon. Cassiopeia is still pushing down on the bottom side, but with West Coast Carry, Mordio, and Evan RL up here, that Baron will not be long for this world. And it looks like at the same time, Cassiopeia might fancy herself soloing out that Infernal Drake, so all the map objectives going in favor of RMU
Lulu
after
steal?
that fight.
Not going to be the case. I was hoping for the Lulu steal. They don't quite get it. Taking a look at that team fight that is getting RMU their big lead. And it starts out with West Coast Carry a little farther ahead of his team than you would normally like to see. It is hard for the rest of the team to get engaged on, but he is setting the team up. Pinks is flanking around the side, and when they turn to refocus after Quick Games gets sniped out, that's when you see that ultimate.
Yeah, and just a multiple amount of CC. Everything landed onto the Lulu. You thought it was all done and used on her, but that paralyzing gaze completely catching the rest of GVSU by surprise, and there was nowhere for them to run as RMU were absolutely everywhere in their jungle.
Let's see how RMU can use this to close the game out. We see GVSU getting a little aggressive, trying to push up onto this mid lane turret that opens up to a TP flank by West Coast Carry.
Right into the waiting arms of Anar. Does not have the Rage Bar available to transform, but they have already picked up a kill onto M-Nasty. Sivir. Looks like it's going to be Schnell Run falling down after that one. Quick Game on the opposite side. Going to get kicked against the wall. Lockdown. Blastcone winds up landing, but the resonating strike is still there. Mordio goes on a killing spree. 3 quick kills picked up for RMU.
GVSU overextends in the mid lane, trying to get something back in their favor. They eventually did grab the bottom turret. I think that was some creeps who took that one. And RMU now grouped up around mid lane. 4v2. Hard for GVSU to really defend this turret. They might want to back off here and just sack this.
Well, this is the RMU we expected to see in game number 1, brute forcing their way into their opponent's base at 20 minutes into the game. QXQ has to Spirit Dash away and QQ himself back to base as that mid lane inhibitor is going to wind up falling for RMU.
RMU finally cracks the base of GVSU, grabbing their first inhibitor. Going to move down and meet up with Pinks, who was pushing down that bot lane. They grab the bot inner turret. They're going to continue pushing into this bot inhibitor.
You know, West Coast Carry has his teleport on cooldown, but looks like, nope, never mind. Is not going to utilize that empowered Baron recall. Instead is going to run away because the rest of GVSU has grouped up on this bottom side of the map. RMU taking down multiple towers already, up them from 4 to 6 just off of that one fight in the Baron buff take, taking a mid lane inhibitor, firmly in control of this game.
Yep, up to that, so that 13k gold lead. Pinks didn't get the recall memo. He's still down here trying to find a pickoff, does not get one. The ultimate did miss. And I like the call by RMU there to reset. No need to push your advantage too hard. Just push the wave in, reset, head back up to the top side, make the most of that Baron empowered recall. Hopefully they can grab some more turrets here as we see them looking like they're heading up for that top wave.
Yep, top lane tower is the only one, or top lane is the only one with an outer tower still available. We saw red buff going over to Evan RL.
Snipe wide.
Does not wind up landing the enchanted crystal arrow. Does burn the ghost from Mundo though. We did see Cassiopeia going back, finishing her Ceres Embrace, picking up a Void Staff as well, so she wasn't already decimating the health bars on GVSU. She's truly going to be doing so now. We saw Gnar going back, picking up a Frozen Mallet, has a little bit of tankiness with his own Warden's Mail. Banshee's Veil picked up for the side of Lee Sin. Massive, massive item spikes on the side of RMU. They just brute forced their way into top lane, take down that last remaining outer tower, and they've set their sights completely onto the base of GVSU.
Yeah, GVSU only has one champion with 2 full items completed. Meanwhile, RMU, basically everyone has 3. They're in a lot of trouble here as RMU wants to take their second inhibitor of the base, focusing down this top lane. Mordio split off on the side a little bit, trying to get that mid-wave into the turret. Trying to make it so that GVSU has to respond to multiple threats at once. See if RMU can actually crack this base. Maybe they look for a dive. They have some tools to do so. West Coast carry does not have any rage built up yet, though.
Mordio might be looking for a Lee Sin kick from the backside, but it looks like it's going to be the side of GVSU going in first. The Paralyzing Gaze locks people up. The kick back in there. They landed onto the super high HP Rek'Sai with the Wild Growth, and they are just destroying GVSU. They don't even need to push down that top lane tower. The mid lane is pushing in. There's 4 members down, and this is going to be RMU. Welcome back to the best of 3. They're going to force game 3.
Yeah, we will definitely see a game 3 after that fight. GVSU tried to pull the trigger and get onto Cassiopeia, the strongest member on the side of RMU, not actually able to pick her up. She gets another big ultimate to lock down the members of GVSU for RMU to collapse on, and that was all she wrote.
Well, they picked the Orianna in game 1, but it's the Cassiopeia in game 2 that absolutely eviscerates GVSU. 27 kills to 8, just 25.5 minutes in. This is the RMU that beat up on Central Michigan last week.
Right, I mean, it looked like the RMU who almost beat up GVSU in game 1 before they kind of went a little too hard, came off the rails, and ended up throwing that game away against GVSU, who knew how to play with their team comp. This time around, not quite as synergistic of a team comp coming in for GVSU, and they fell way further behind this time.
Yeah, and the GVSU did not have the Katarina and the Shen pickups to really rely on to kind of get themselves back into that game. They also wound up losing out in the lane a lot harder. Every single lane was down in CS, and of course they weren't able to kind of recover with that Shen stand united, have good global pressure, and try to turn fights around early on, and RMU just never let their snowball kind of fall apart.
Yeah, I think you still see that they play a little over-aggressive in spots. We saw right there that they had gone for some aggressive invades that almost got turned around, but Cassiopeia was just way too far ahead. Gnar was also bullying Mundo very hard, able to turn some 2v1s on his own, and off the back of that one, RMU looks very strong heading into game 3.
Yeah, and RMU were definitely able to shore up some of their weaknesses from that game. One being the over-aggression being a bane for them, but also the bottom lane of the map was a little bit of a sore thumb for RMU if you had to kind of point anything out in game number 1 during the lane phase, and they shored up some of those in our first replay you're going to see here. About 10.5 minutes into the game, RMU focused a lot more ganks on the bottom side and were able to focus down and get key kills on this side of the map.
Yeah, and you actually see it's GVSU opening this one up. They collapse onto Evan RL, slightly overextend the bot lane. He gets opened up on by the Ahri. Kind of hard to deal with that as in the mobile carry and Ashe. And then as GVSU wants to try and push this for as big an advantage as possible, they go and start hitting this turret. This buys enough time for Cassiopeia to start moving down as well. And we already know how strong Pinks was in this game, and you get to see him at work here. Gets a nice miasma down to stop anyone from being able to flash out. Ahri stuck there, buys enough time. Another good ultimate. Quick game focus down while the Ahri's stunned. They collapse back onto her. Not necessarily the best focus in terms of bringing her down. There was no poison ticks on her, so the E's were not doing as much damage, but they're still able to finish her off, and then MNasty goes down as well. Noobs R Us uses his teleport trying to get involved in this play, unable to actually do so, and this will eventually set up that TP play that RMU was able to do a little bit later into that game and crack that first turret for them.
Yeah, West Coast Carrier was able to get a really good teleport play that opened up a fight into the bottom side of the map, and they were able to just completely roll through. Although RMU had multiple catches in that game that went extremely in their favor. Just around the 20-minute mark, RMU was able to catch out the side of GVSU again in their own jungle, and this was the fight that led into that first inhibitor.
Right, this was when the Infernal Dragon was just spawning into the game, and you think, you see GVSU prepping up around it, they're going to try and contest it, and West Coast Carry pulls the trigger right as it spawns, basically, and jumps into 3 members of GVSU, showing just how strong he is on this Gnar.
Yeah, just not necessarily giving heed to his own life. We saw that on the Kled, it didn't work out for him, but on the Gnar, it was a little more effective this time around. And another good paralyzing gaze, locking up the remaining members of GVSU and just absolutely decimating them in this fight.
Yeah, and we got to see just how strong the Cassiopeia was there as well. Basically 1v2ing the Ahri and Mundo. She did have that Abyssal Scepter done in time, giving her some extra MR in that kind of trading situation, and they could not actually finish her off. And Cassiopeia, if you can't actually kill her, does have that semi-lifesteal available to her, and she was able to heal back up.
All right, so that's going to be another game in this best-of-3 series. We get all 3 games in, which is exciting. So we got to take a short break to cool ourselves down a little bit. When we come back, though, we are going to see who takes the 3rd and final game in this best-of-3 series. Welcome back, League fans. It's all tied up at 1-1 right now. Mark, what's GVSU got to do to try to repeat some of that success they found in game number 1?
I don't know, because like I said, in game 1, a lot of that came from RMU overextending with some big leads that they had. I think maybe try for a little bit more stable of a lane matchup mid, but honestly, Cassio Ahri is not the most volatile matchup generally. Cassio is a little bit stronger in that laning phase, but I mean, you still don't expect to see the kills coming in quite the way they did.
Well, one of these things we may have to find from GVSU is shoring up their pick and ban phase. It seemed like once the Shen and the Katarina were taken away by RMU, they kind of fell apart and weren't able to really scrap back in some of these picks, later stage team fights that they were able to take game 1.
Yeah, I think the big thing though is finding out some lane matchups that are going to go well for them. They basically got solo kill in the top side, though it was with the help of the jungler, but after that small gank in the top side, it got snowballed totally out of control. Mid lane was mostly the same situation. The bot lane, for the most part, has been doing good over the course of the series. I think they're fine whatever matchup you give them, but find some ways to get some counter picks for your top and mid lane now that you're back onto the red side.
Well, now that we are in game number 3, the picks and bans are coming out. We already see the Malzahar and the Shen bans away once again from RMU. GVSU responding with that Rumble that's been banned away pretty much every single game, and the Rengar pickup. And the Lulu's actually going to be the target here. They're banning away something from Quick Game, so that does leave the Katarina open, but you've already taken away the Shen.
Right, you've taken away a lot of the tools that enabled the Katarina to go off in that first game. You banned away the Lulu and Shen, which were both critical in keeping her alive long enough to get a lot of damage down. So with those out, they feel confident that there's not as many defensive tools available for them to be able to use that Katarina pick. Makes sense to me, especially considering that the Lulu was a big problem in lane as well, because they've gotten killed in the 2v2 trading matchups both games now, so they need to be a lot more careful on the side of RMU.
Well, RMU decide that careful is not necessarily the way they want to go. West Coast carry picks up the Renekton early on. It is going to be met with a Nautilus in the top lane, so we have more of these more bully-centric, eventually starts really turning on around the mid-game where he starts snowballing out of control carry-style top laners versus that tank who, out of the 3 major tanks, you think Maokai, you think Poppy, you think Nautilus, is one of the more bully-oriented laners.
Right, Nautilus generally has the best wave clear early on. Renekton does beat most of the tanks. Not super hard though, not something that the tank can't recover from, but in the Challenger Series where the matchups are played a little looser, not quite as tight as you see in the pro level of play, it is possible for that Renekton to go off a little bit more. GVSU gets their hands back on the Lee Sin again. Both junglers looking way more confident on that one, and we see Mordio changing it up, going for the Olaf, so he's not stuck in that Graves, which was not super impressive. And then the Katarina also taken away, this time on the side of RMU. I'm a little surprised to see that, given that Pinks looked like he was playing pretty well on the more control mage champions.
Well, this time around he'll be on an assassin, so we'll have to see if this is RMU going extremely hard and straightforward with their composition. We have the Katarina, who's going to want to love to fight the entire time. We have the Renekton, who wants to dash in. We have the Olaf, who's going to be able to kind of team up with that Renekton and dive down into some carries. And there is a Vayne from the side of GVSU who won't turn on until later stages of the game, but is going to have to try to kite back and stay alive against all of the dive coming out from RMU.
And then you see, of course, with that much dive, RMU going with the Ezreal and Nami, 2 picks that are a little bit more self-sufficient. The Nami can send the tidal wave in as well to help speed up those divers and CC the people who they're looking to kill. GVSU rounds out their comp with the Thresh pick overall, so a lot more aggressive of a draft this time around by RMU in terms of diving into the back line. Not as much utility this time around.
Yeah, so we could see when we take a look at the draft recap, not necessarily as much utility from the side of, well, pretty much either team. There is still the sustained support in Pami's Nami. Try saying that 5 times fast.
I won't bother.
I will have to eventually in this cast. But now a little bit more pick potential from the side of GVSU, but there isn't the heals, there isn't the shields. It's a little bit more about playing their composition and positioning correctly in these fights.
I think the big thing is the fact that they have the Katarina pick for them. We saw what it can do against a Victor, which Pobelter showed us in the NALCS. It can totally go off. They don't have the defensive tools for it that you often see with the Assassin pick, so I'm a little nervous for the side of RMU, but not that bad because we've seen them crush the early game 2 games in a row.
Well, both of these teams have shown that they've had a game to get under their belts. It is now a game number 3 of this best of 3 series, and you've seen the picks, so you can let us know by getting on Twitter and tweeting either hashtag RMU or hashtag GVSU and tweet it to @uLoL so you guys can see who you're going to be voting for in this best of 3 series. However, if you are like some people on this desk and you are a little bit uncertain, you want to wait to the end of the game, you can of course tweet out @uLoL with hashtag flip-flop, and you can just be on the victory side no matter what.
All right, well, it looks like we're going to head into game 3 with that one. If you want to be the hashtag flip-flopper, I don't know why people are telling me I'm a flip-flopper. I did that one time.
So who do you got? You said RMU. You're a little bit scared with this team composition.
I am a little bit scared. I will stick it through just so I don't look like I'm wrong and flip-flop for a second time. So we're sticking with RMU.
All right, I'll take GVSU then just because I like going against what you say.
That's all the reason you really need.
I mean, technically, I flip-flopped there because I said RMU at the beginning of this best of 3.
But, yeah, and I was saying RMU the whole time, so you're the flip-flopper if anything. What is this about?
Graphics are on my side. Let's get in the game before Mark realizes what's going on.
All right, we'll head into game number 3 here. Logic has seemingly been thrown out the window in favor of harassing me.
Are we saying that we're in a counter Logic game?
No, we would not say that, Tom. We would say we are in the final game of this semifinal matchup in the uLoL Campus Series.
Funny things happen in best of 3 series, considering we don't get all that many best of 3s in the Campus Series, and this is one of the teams that was expected in RMU to kind of steamroll throughout the playoffs. GVSU, the furthest they got was the round of 32. This could potentially be the furthest they actually get in the Campus Series playoffs. RMU is standing in their way. Are they going to be able to be the giant killers? We've had 2 giant killers already in the BTN.
Yeah, I think you got to give GVSU a lot of props for even getting this far. We talked about how round 32 last year, but they've looked pretty good versus RMU. I think individually you can see that they are a little outclassed both in the mid lane and the top lane. Both times they've been big CS leads really early on the side of RMU, but they've shown if they can overcome those early gold deficits, they have the team play to match up against a lot of these more well-known programs.
Well, we'll see if they have what it takes to move on and advance in the Northern Conference playoffs. RMU has kind of been the raid boss at the end of that for forever, and no one has seemed to take them down. It usually takes UBC to take them down in the finals of the overall Campus Series. So anything less than making those Campus Series finals for RMU will be something that their school's just not used to whatsoever. When you're talking to all these different players, they have the prestige of the program behind them. They keep saying, our goal is to win the entire thing. Our goal is to take down UBC, and our goal is to be the best. And game number 1, it didn't look like they were the best. Game number 2, looked like they were the best.
Pretty convincing game number 2. We'll have to see if they can continue that momentum into game 3. Starting out with both junglers on the bot side, going to be heading up to the top side pretty early on. It makes sense. You don't mind seeing the snowball coming in for Renekton if you can get some early jungle attention. Already coming out a little bit ahead of Noobs R Us in these trades. It is very hard to deal with the Renekton, like we said, generally favored in almost every matchup he ends up in.
We'll want to see if West Coast Carry can do what his name suggests and carry RMU through this game. The Renekton Snowball could be potentially powerful. We have seen players like Solo from Goldcoin United in the North American Challenger Series utilizing those lane advantages from Renekton, roaming into the mid side of the map, teleporting down to the bottom side and trying to get those advantages all throughout the map. If you're going to be doing that and trying to focus down onto a Katarina lane, that might be where you want to start, because Pink stealing this one away from QXQ. We'll see how he plays the Katarina in this map.
Yeah, and the hard thing is for GVSU, no lockdown CC available really between the jungler and the mid laner, so you're going to have to hope that Katarina kind of uses her mobility aggressively, and then you can kind of punish that. If the jungler is nearby, it can be tough to do so depending on how Pinks wants to play, but often you see Katarina's playing aggressive. A Schnell run is waiting for West Coast Carry already.
Yeah, winds up utilizing the Sonic Wave to slice the dice away. He's going to have to flash as well. Flash already used by Noobs R Us. The safeguard forward there from Schnell Run. The red buff ticking away. He is going to flash forward, secures the kill for first blood. No assist given over to Noobs R Us, and that could be crucial here. But now the ghost is popped by the Olaf, trying to run in with the undertows. He's going to be able to get a trade kill, and he will. Schnell Run taking down extremely low. A double kill picked up for the Olaf. Mordio!
You get to see the benefit of that attack speed passive coming in there, able to turn that one. It looked for sure like Schnell was going to be able to kill him, but the creeps also helping out, throwing in the last bit of extra damage needed for Mordio to turn that 1v2.
Oh, that is so good for RMU and so bad for GVSU. No assist picked up for the Nautilus, already down 17 to 8 CS. The Renekton's able to walk back to lane. He has to teleport back up. And this started so good for GVSU with this gang, but turned sour after this kill.
Yeah, Schnell Run is there extremely early on, waiting for West Coast Carry to ward. He's able to force out the flash. We see no hook available for Noobs R Us yet, not level 3 quite yet. And if he managed to hit 3, you see he takes the hook there, was not aware that the Olaf was coming from behind, trying to hook back into range. If he had it available, he might have had the extra CC needed to actually win this. And here you see that extra attack speed, getting that 2 autos in for the price of 1 versus Lee Sin, as well as some extra damage by creeps being just what he needs to actually win that fight.
And I believe that was a grasp of the Undying proc on Nautilus as he fell down as well. It's either that or he winds up having the Dangerous Game to give him a little bit of extra HP after that champion kill. So Olaf now 2 kills to 0. We saw him counter jungling the Raptor camp on the opposite side. Mordio level 5, Schnell Run only level 4, utilizing the Scryer's Bloom as well to try to spot out where this Lee Sin's going to be. If Mordio is going to be playing anything like he did in games 1 and 2, he's going to be up in this Lee Sin's face soon.
Yeah, it looked like he was thinking about a jungle invade there, but turns around after getting scout out. And already again, 1,000 gold lead for RMU just 5 minutes into the game. 15 CS lead in the top lane and a solo kill. Maybe coming in around the mid lane, though. QXQ looks like he's going to get out of this one. Schnellrun might be able to punish.
Yep, Schnellrun's going to try to going forward. Does not have the flash available. Has to dodge out through these minions. The Tempest and the Cripple is available, but the laser is coming in. QXQ is able to try to kill. Pink's a little bit too aggressive.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. When you see the mobility already used on the side of the Katarina, that's the perfect time to gank. Try to get the solo kill onto QXQ, which leaves him a little bit exposed to the Lee Sin. Did get some mobility back up, but at that point, with no summoners available, was forced to try and trade and turn that one back, unable to do so.
No, so that's going to be another kill picked up for GVSU. So a little bit of reprieve in this early game. Schnellrun, in the meantime, going to soak up some experience on this top side, but West Coast Carry starting to do some Renekton things and slice and dice through waves, get some wards on the opposite side of the enemy tower, and overall make himself relatively safe when he starts playing super aggressive against this Nautilus.
Yeah, he's definitely playing super aggressive so far, as you see the keystones on screen. Now, nothing too surprising for anyone. Victor with the Deathfire touch. Some people still prefer the Thunderlords. Interesting to see which one they choose to go for.
Well, Deathfire is going to mean that if he builds a lot of AP, he'll be chunking and burning away at key targets. And we do see the Gracian dying on the Olaf. And we already saw that paying dividends in that top lane trade as well. So Mordio continues to play aggressive against Schnellrun, trying to sit in this brush. Doesn't realize that it's warded, even though Renekton did put a ward over there himself. It is going to force Noobs R Us back. Already with the Chilling Smite and the Ghost Pop, but Schnellrun is here. No flash on Noobs R Us, and this Olaf has no heed for anybody's life. Going forward, almost gets a kill on Noobs R Us. Finally decides that when the Ragnarok ends, he should back away.
Almost gets a 2v1 kill there. We also see the other members of RMU responding to that. Pinks was making his way up to the top side. West Coast Carry couldn't quite get through the turret to follow up, but enough pressure to get the Nautilus forced out of turret again. Down 30 CS now, not even level 6 yet. Very difficult time in this top lane, and it might be too much for the Nautilus to recover from.
Well, we already saw that West Coast Carry tried to do big things on Kled in game number 1, didn't work out. When he wound up playing the Gnar in game number 2, he was an integral part of how RMU was able to grab fights, especially around the backside of Dragon Pit. His Gnar ultimates to start off that fight, one of the key reasons why those paralyzing gazes were going to land. So now that he's on more of a damage-centric carry top laner, the focus from RMU is on getting him ahead and whittling away down on this tower, making sure that that frontline pickup in the Nautilus is not going to turn online anytime soon, and making sure that this Renekton pick is going to be able to snowball quite effectively as the Dominus gets popped here. West Coast Carry is looking for a trade under the tower. Noobs R Us gets the shield, has to flash away the slice in the dice. West Coast Carry! He goes down!
Gives him 6.
Oh, the depth charge goes out. Now Noobs R Us trading down on the Mordio. Tries to get him back into tower range. Will wind up getting one more auto attack down. And Noobs R Us, that's a much needed kill for that Nautilus.
Yeah, that's a huge mistake for West Coast Carry. The fact that he gives a kill back to the Nautilus, who also has teleport now, so he's not actually in that much danger. He also knows the jungler is low. He can push this wave out. And then knowing that West Coast Carry has to walk back the turret, he himself can teleport if he wants to, or potentially walk back. This is just a huge break in the game for him, giving him a lot of breathing room now.
And we already see the gold getting close to even less than 1,000 now in favor of RMU. We did see much needed gold picked up by the side of Noobs R Us. After that kill, getting about 300 extra gold, he is still down by about another kill compared to West Coast Carry, just through the pure CS advantage that they have on this map. Although in the mid lane, Victor getting a little bit of the better of this matchup against Katarina. You'd expect that to be the way it goes in the early stages, especially with the blue buff that he's been gifted over to by his own jungler. So that means that GVSU, they definitely have some advantages on their side. One of them, however, is not the bottom side of the map. The Vayne will eventually become a later game threat, but the lane phase for RMU going much better now that there's that late game carry on GVSU's side.
Yeah, it's definitely a big problem. The CS advantage is still 30 on the top side, almost 25 down the bot lane. You would expect to see the Vayne behind a little bit, but not quite this much. You mentioned mid lane having a small advantage. Katarina usually okay in the matchup, though. A little bit more difficult to play. We see repeated attention up in this top side still. Noobs R Us forced away from his turret for what feels like the 15th time this game already, as the turret will go down. Mordio, we didn't touch on it quite yet, also has a massive CS lead over the Lee Sin.
That's true, and Lee Sin's going to try to make something happen on the bottom side. Lands a Sonic Wave, but no Resonating Strike down onto Pommy. So that's going to be top side of the map for RMU going down in their favor. Their top side champions combining for gold advantages over their opponents. The bottom side already staying safe and strong, going for the eventually I'll deal damage build with the Tyr and the Cole, but already generating large advantages. The Nami pickup in lane being a big part of that one, is now Noobs R Us. This is the second tier tower they're going to dive through now. Mordio's got the Ghost on. West Coast Carry's got the Dominus pop. They're trying to lock him up, but a flash wave from West Coast Carry keeps himself alive. Mid lane, the kill might be traded down here by Pink's going to want it going back to his dagger, but it will be a kill picked up there for QXQ.
There's a nice attempt by Pinks to try and get out there. not able to do so. The Victor laser missed, giving him the opportunity to potentially turn that, but not quite enough. Still had his ignite up. Glad he didn't burn it in the desperation attempt to kill the Lee Sin there. They also had the exhaust, so both people dying or letting that go without giving up any of their summoners. Still a 2K gold lead for RMU, but the Nautilus is mostly out of the game. I wouldn't mind seeing Mordio trying to transition some of this pressure down to other parts of the map now. You already won this matchup for your top laner. It's nice to be able to snowball that way, but you're losing an Infernal Drake for all that pressure you're putting up there. It would have been nice, like I said, to see some of that focus down on the bot side.
Well, GVSU, good response from them in order to get that Infernal Drake, but mNasty getting a little bit too aggressive, winds up having to pop the ultimate there to just dodge out of it by going invisible, flashes away, so getting a little bit aggressive there in a 1v2 situation. You know that your allies are there taking Dragon, but you also knew that they're going back.
Or both people being a little antsy there, not necessarily needing to flash away, not necessarily needing to exhaust. Could have been happy just popping the ultimate, but not the worst thing overall for either team. Obviously, you'd be happy to trade an exhaust for a flash, as it is also the nerfed exhaust, something we haven't really touched on yet today.
Oh, that's true. So that's not necessarily going to be doing as much as the old exhaust would. The shredding resistances, the overall slow, just the ability, just the crippling potential of the exhaust is not necessarily as powerful as it used to be, but it is still something that can turn around, especially on a Vayne who relies on that attack speed. It'd be something they could wind up utilizing in the later stages of the game. It's not West Coast carry transitioning his advantage into the jungle. The empowered Q coming out there, just ripping through Schnellrun and that Lee Sin, now also forcing him at the Nautilus as he joins up. That's the power of that Renekton pick when you get it ahead, when you start snowballing on something like that.
And that's why I think I was saying that I don't want to see the Olaf up there that much more. You already see he's basically able to 1v2 the jungler and top laner on the enemy team. If you want to keep trying to snowball the top side, fine, but you need to get this Katarina going a little bit here. Now 0 and 2, pretty far behind in terms of itemization, not even really close to the Gunblade quite yet, when normally you'd want to be seeing that come in around the 15-minute mark at latest.
Stopping for the Hex Drinker just to get some early trade shielding against that Victor pickup here. Though, the Nautilus is also going to be dealing a little bit of magic damage, but now this Nautilus is going to be the focus of yet again another gank here. Mordio going through the tower. Depth charge getting used, trying to hook up, flashes back over the wall, trying to get West Coast carry at least in a trade kill situation, and they will, but it looks like Mordio is also going to try to clean up this tower. QXQ coming up from the mid lane, goes into a tussle with the Olaf. The tower winds up going down, but the gravity field comes out here. Mordio, though, just going to turn right back around, procs the grass and the Undying. The Victor ultimate is out. The Katarina's joined the fray, and Mordio gets a kill with an axe. Bottom side of the map, though, the hook lands down on the Pommy. They stun him against the wall. They play him back into the box. Evan RL going to get exhausted up. Pommy trying to sustain as much as possible. Can they turn the trade onto mNasty? He's the one to pick up the kill first. Now Evan RL will surely fall. Actually gets a kill onto mNasty. The flash forward. The hook does not land. The auto attack will not be enough. The slice, the dice, the assist. A double kill for Evan RL.
Man, I thought for sure GVSU's bot lane was going to crush that 2v2. Unable to actually do so. We also saw the Katarina roaming up against QXQ for some reason, who was trying to punish the Olaf. You know the other mid laner is missing as well. Surprising to see him sticking around after that turret already went down. And then after that 2v2, we also see West Coast carry TP down. Not actually able to get involved in the fight, but is going to join in this turret push, help them grab their third turret of the game.
And this is RMU, all sorts of in control of this game. They may have been getting a little bit too gung-ho on the top side and had West Coast carry die in some tower dives, but they're able to translate the pressure extremely well, starting off with this tower they kick up in the top side.
Yeah, right after Mordio grabs that turret, you see QXQ trying to punish him for sticking around. It's a little surprising to see him going this hard, given that he should know the mid lane has been vacated. It's true their vision control up on the top side is not that great overall, but it's just risky, and what are you really fighting over? There's no objective there you're protecting or trying to get. And meanwhile, on the bot side, this looks like it's going pretty well for the bot lane initially. Able to finish off Palmy right away, but then Evan RL gets the trade kill back. The flash hook misses, and this is all that he needs to get the turnaround kill. He probably would have died anyway, so the Renekton coming in, but it would have been nice to finish off Evan RL before he went down.
Yeah, and that health potion just keeping him alive enough to eat through that minorly empowered Flay auto attack coming out from Quick Games Thresh. So GVSU facing down a 5,500 gold deficit, 14.5 minutes into this game. No dragon yet available on the map, but RMU are not interested in taking dragons. They're taking
lives
all over the place, lives all over the place. 7 kills to 6. It's been a bit of a bloody early game. That last mid lane tower that mid lane tower is the last outer tower that RMU is going to be setting their sights on. They've already rotated their dual lane up to that side. They got a little bit of a split push situation going on. Renekton on the top side, Katarina on the bottom side, and Olaf, well, pretty much wherever he wants.
Right, and it's a tough decision where to send RMU's lanes, actually, because You don't really want the weak Katarina with MR against the Vayne, as we see Pommy get a little caught out in the jungle here. We're used to seeing this
tidal wave
happen quite a bit this series. Needs to work on having better warding synergy with the rest of his team, who are busy on the Rift Herald.
Ah, first one of the day. Wouldn't be a campus series day without
Yeah,
Rift
I
Herald.
was worried we weren't going to get any today, but RMU has our back. They grabbed the first one.
Yeah, and that's going to be gifted over to the Renekton, who, I mean, we normally don't see a lot of Rift Heralds being taken, but when we do, there's normally a Renekton in the game that's going to be utilizing his snowball advantage even further by using that Glimpse of the Void buff.
Right, and this is what I was talking about with the lane assignments. You would want the Katarina with the MR kind of against the Nautilus, but she's not as far ahead as you would like, making all these lane assignments a little awkward. Instead, it'll be the Renekton staying up on the top side, which once again is surprising because there's no objectives up there to really force around, and he is the strongest member arguably on the side of RMU, along with the Olaf, of course. So I would have expected to see that the setup's a little different, but then again, Renekton doesn't love 1v1ing Vayne, though he is much further ahead than the Vayne at this point in the game.
Renekton going to keep himself on that top side of the map, continuing to bully around Schnellrun, who is going to put a little bit of vision down on his own side of the map. GVSU vision control has not been their strong point this entire series. RMU's has definitely been a little bit better. And we can see Mordio already on the bottom side, choking out vision around that side of the area with the dragon spawning in about 10 seconds. Looks like that if RMU are not able to transition this forward and get the tower, that mountain dragon will be the next thing they set their sights on, and it will be extremely helpful when they eventually do rotate towards that tower. Now, Mordio on the backside using the True Shot Barrage as well from Ezreal just to continue to apply pressure. West Coast carries already pushed down onto the inhibitor tower, whereas the bottom lane side, Katarina's already grouped up in the mid lane here, so they're threatening to go for a bit of a dive situation with the Renekton now coming down from top.
Yeah, it's very risky for GVSU to try and hold this turret. They do have enough members around here to potentially force them off of that dive. RMU instead going down to focus on this Mountain Dragon. We'll see if GVSU wants to contest this.
GVSU did not take the bait for a fight in the mid lane, so it is going to be RMU backing away towards the tower. Now Noobs Are Us. I guess they realize that this Dragon's going to be traded for, so M Nasty comes all the way up from bottom side of the map, now into the top side. They use the depth charge, but Renekton just dashes away from it.
Yeah, Vayne was not quite in range to get a Bork proc off, try and keep the Renekton moving slow. Should have the Night Hunter passive, didn't ult to get the extra move speed, so Renekton able to get away scot-free there.
Yes, that's going to be a Dragon going away to the side of RMU, and they immediately move back towards that middle side of the map with their dual lane to continue pressuring down on that tower, which will now be taking 10% extra damage off the back of that Mountain Dragon. West Coast carry, in the meantime, decides that he's got enough gold in his pocket from this flip push game to go back and try to buy something. Already about 1,700 gold. He had a Tiamat and a Sunfire Cape in his inventory. We'll see what he winds up upgrading next. On the flip side, Ezreal, 2.5k in his own pocket, has now snowballed that advantage by, well, almost 2.5k over his lane opponent in the Vayne.
You see basically 2k gold leads for almost every member, aside for the mid lane matchup between KXQ and Bipinks. And of course the supports. Hard to get involved in those kind of big gold leads when you can't grab CS for yourself.
Yeah, but there's still about a 400 gold advantage for the Nami over the Thresh, and that's going to be gained off the fact that they have multiple towers, 3-0 over their opponents at GVSU. So RMU content to take this one a little bit slower. It's only 18.5 minutes in, and they are this far ahead, so it's not exactly like it's been a slow-paced game, but they're not continuing invading into dark areas of the map. They're not letting GVSU take the same advantages that they were giving them in Game 1.
Definitely feels like RMU learned their lesson from Game 1. Don't overextend quite so hard. You can't completely disrespect the team of GVSU. They continue to play aggressive, though. West Coast carry trying to open up on the Vayne. This is why I was saying you generally don't see Renekton's liking to match up against Vayne. He gets collapsed on. Probably going to go down here. Tries to turn back onto the Vayne. Forces out the heal, but will go down. Yeah,
so the condemned stun against the wall winds up getting a kill for themselves. Noobs R Us uses teleport in that exchange as well, though it didn't look like it was all too necessary. So that means that they are going to wind up picking up another kill. This one gifted over to the Vayne, which is a much-needed kill on that carry.
Right, and obviously there were a lot of people helping out finish off that Renekton pick. And I think this is where you got to be a little worried on the side of RMU. Last time they had around a 7,000 gold lead, did sell out for a little bit before finding a big ace around the Dragon. Maybe they can find another opportunity here. But GVSU just looking to stall out for the most part. No longer a crazy snowballing Cassiopeia and Gnar. A little bit easier of champions to deal with the Renekton and Olaf. More binary, straightforward, and generally don't scale as well into the late game.
Well, Quick Game gonna lend the hook on the Mordio. The gravity field behind him. He has to walk all the way around that one, so he will be forced away here. So RMU not able to collapse on that.
Yeah, you see RMU having a lot harder time cracking this mid lane turret now that they have a wave clear champion in the mid lane.
Well, while this game has stalled out into a little bit of a lull, while all of you hashtag flip-flops out there, maybe waiting with bated breath to see who you think is going to win this game, we of course always want to know. So tweet at uLoL, hashtag RMU, hashtag GVSU. I would say hashtag flip-flop, but at this point in the game, if you're a flip-flopper, you're rooting for RMU because they've gotten themselves a 6,000 gold advantage. The kills are even up, and like you said, the game is slowing down a little bit, and while that does favor GVSU, it's not like RMU is not still trying to pressure their advantages. This mid lane tower is below half. They're continuously running the Renekton around different points of the map, continuing to apply pressure onto the side of GVSU. The minion waves have almost permanently been on the side of GVSU's river for like the past 5 minutes or so, so RMU are definitely in control.
I mean, it's been that way for most of the series overall, and that's definitely a reason that RMU has generally had a big turret advantage taken. Just overall, GVSU has had a hard time getting minion waves into the side of RMU as you see them pushing up constantly all 3 lanes well into the side of GVSU's map.
Well, the third and final outer tower, the 4th of the game for RMU, will wind up falling in their favor in that mid lane. So they've cracked that inner tower. They're now trying to rotate their vision up towards the Baron side of the map. Of course, that will be the next major objective that one of these teams looks to get. Meanwhile, Renekton on the bottom side of the map has his teleport available. No teleport available for Noobs R Us, although I don't think anybody's in any hurry to try to start up a Baron play, although it looks like while these trades are going down, a little bit in favor of Noobs R Us, as West Coast carry was a little bit low to start off with this one. RMU have actually rushed towards this Baron area, so we do have West Coast carry rotating away from their Nautilus here. He is spotted out by GVSU. The blast going over the wall early on. They steal it with the Victor, so that's able to be taken away from the side of RMU, and now GVSU pick up 2 quick kills off of that one. There's a teleport coming in. It's actually going to be trading around from the side of Katarina. The teleport gets stopped. Victor picks up another kill. Pommy might wind up going down to the Victor, flashes away, but he's got the speed boost. One last auto attack could be it. The bubble's going to save him for now. Bottom side of the map, Noobs R Us now with a Baron buff. Trades a kill on the West Coast carry. RMU, it's a disaster.
They end up in a 4-for-2 and giving over Baron buff to GVSU, who are going to be able to start pushing down and getting a lot of gold back from the turrets that they have not yet secured. On the same time as all that's happening, West Coast carry fails a dive in the bot lane. And you got to give huge props to QXQ there. Not only did he grab all 3 of those kills, I'm pretty sure, he also secured the Baron. It was his ultimate that took it. And now the gold lead has shrunk all the way down to 3K almost instantly off the back of that over-aggressive Baron force.
Man, I love Game 3s, Mark. This is some exciting stuff. GVSU with a Baron steal, trying to hang in this game. Now they have the comeback mechanic. They have position for this dragon. It'll be spawning in about 30 seconds, but all of RMU are alive. And if you are RMU, I gotta ask, what would they think? They didn't have to force that.
I mean, that's a big reason why you would say they shouldn't have done it. I mean, they tried to zone with the Katarina. You saw her have her dagger left on the ground, making it awkward for Chanel Run to run past it. Eventually, the dagger times out. He gets through there. They don't have that much damage at that point in the game. So even though the Baron was sitting at around 2,500 health, it takes a while to actually burn through that with basically just an Olaf, Ezreal, and Nami hitting it. And it was just a really over-aggressive play by RMU, trying too hard to be sneaky. They could have just kept pressuring in waves for another couple minutes until they have a little bit more damage. You see the Ezreal does not even have his mana finish yet, and now GVSU slightly back in the game, still a little bit weaker, but their comp is likely to outscale. This is just an Ocean Dragon. They don't really need to force it. I like this decision to back off. Hopefully we see them being able to group up and push a little bit more off the back of that Baron take.
So RMU, they lose the Baron, they get an Ocean Dragon. I don't think it's necessarily the same worth in the trade here, as we do see this is where Chanel Run runs in, tries to smite down the Baron, but it's actually the Victor laser that's able to secure the kill on it.
Yeah, the Victor had his ultimate laser in there. And after that, Evan RL just gets way too aggressive, not respecting the Victor. This is the bane of AD carries trying to get too close. Now there's so many low members from the Baron, that's an easy chase down for him. It was actually a quick game to grab the other kill, not a triple kill for the Victor. And then West Coast carry, I mean, this is why I was saying there's no reason to put that much attention into the top side. He tries to 1v1 Noobs R Us. He was close to doing it, but Noobs R Us didn't even need to take that fight. He could have ran away if he really wanted to. And this is the problem with Renekton. And when you put him into a tank matchup, is sure, he'll bully him. Sure, he'll have pressure for almost the entire game. And he might have bigger threat onto the backline, but it's really hard for him to actually dive a full tank. And now we see West Coast carry caught out a little bit.
Well, the entire team here from GVSU, the flash on the Vayne, but immediate condemn backwards. West Coast carry is going to slice. He's not going to be able to dice, and he's going to get chopped to pieces. And nasty. Now 3 kills on this Vayne.
Just stall the game out. That's all you need to do for GVSU. They're slowly getting the gold lead further into their favor. Still down about 3,000 gold. They did only grab that 1 turret. They still have a couple Barons up, but they're having a hard time getting minion waves onto the side of RMU to actually use that Baron buff.
Yeah, the Baron buff was kind of stalled out a little bit. They weren't able to utilize it. Kind of dancing around the Dragon Pit for a while, but they have been able to kind of slowly push some waves back out. As you mentioned, they got in their first tower of the game, but they haven't necessarily snowballed that into a massive advantage. So this is definitely a catch-up Baron. If you looked at it before, 20 minutes into the game, it was a 7,000 gold advantage for RMU. Now, if you're looking at it just at a glance here, about 2,500 advantage for RMU. So they've already closed the gap by 4,500 gold just off the back of that Baron take and those trades. Is now Mordio on the bottom side of the
He
map.
wants to try his luck.
Yeah, trying to try his own luck against the Nautilus. Has the Ragnarok available, so no crowd control is going to be able to go through. But as soon as he dives through the tower, the depth charge winds up going out. Mordio now getting turned around on Noobs or Us. Dredgeline's available on the top side of the map. Vane's able to split push down that tower with some help from her team. But now Victor's kind of joined the fray. He gets the speed up from his Q. The Undertow's going to try to keep Mordio safe for now as the Olaf has to try to turn away. But it has pushed Victor back away from that mid lane, letting Katarina and Renekton push.
Yeah, but that's all they really need to do. The fact that we saw Mordio not grouped up with his team at all, trying to 1v1 the enemy top laner instead of dealing with the push that was coming in the top side, made it possible for GVSU to grab their second turret of the game, now down to a 2,000 gold lead. And like you were saying, sure, they can't get a ton done with this Baron buff, but they can do enough, and most importantly, it stopped RMU from grabbing it and being able to use it, so it won't be available for RMU to try and force around again for another couple minutes. And by that time, GVSU might have caught up too much for this early game comp for the side of RMU to really be able to fight.
You're going to wind up eventually having the Nautilus, who has already picked up a Thornmail, has the Spectre's Cowl and a Sunfire Cape. He's starting to get towards that ridiculous frontline tankiness factor that helped GVSU win game number 1. Now West Coast Carry being caught out again, 1-6-3 on the Renekton. You wouldn't think this is the guy they snowballed ahead early on in the game. Nasty going to tumble forward, pick up another kill. This Vayne now, Blade of the Rune King, Phantom Dancer, 4-2-1. An additional BF sword going towards that Infinity Edge. She's almost completely online as well, and that is going to be disastrous for RMU. They don't have anybody that scales nearly as hard as the Vayne.
No one at all. And you see, even though Victor doesn't do very much to Mordio right now, he does plenty to the squishy members of RMU. So as long as he's not just stuck hitting frontline, or even though Renekton doesn't have any MR yet, who has somehow gone 1-7-3 in this game despite the incredible start that he got.
Maybe a little bit too much aggression from West Coast Carry. It's now GVSU utilizing all of their Targon stacks there, getting QXQ in addition to quick game, some gold.
Anyone who's played support knows the frustration of walking up to mid lane, trying to assist and getting some of those Targon stacks off.
Oh,
Noobs are Us forced to TP out, won't be able to complete it by Pinks. Finishes him off while Nasty split pushing down the bot lane.
so they are going to wind up losing their tanky front line. They're trying to use the, hey, you have nothing to CC me, huh? Death is the best CC, Mark.
It is the best CC if you're actually able to get it off. It can be a little difficult. This time, Noobs are Us a little too pushed out, and you get to see what happens when the damage dealers are the ones trying to kill him as opposed to the two tanks.
It's going to be dangerous, too, if you are that Nautilus. Only a Spectre's Cowl picked up means that Katarina does still a decent amount of damage to you, and she was able to pick up that kill as well. So now 2 kills there on the Katarina. Has a lot of components in her inventory, in addition to a 2-stack Dark Seal, but has the Hextech Gunblade completed. This push in the top side from RMU is going to be dissuaded by some Victor wave clear. But of course, at the same time, this has let West Coast Carry kind of just slice and dice his way back onto the middle side and onto the bottom side, trying to regain some of that wave control that RMU lost off the back of that Baron take.
Yeah, RMU still definitely has the push advantage generally in the control over the side of GVSU's jungle, but the gold lead is the big thing, having dropped to around 2 to 1.5k. It's been fluctuating a little bit depending on who's grabbing the farm right then. And I think you're seeing GVSU starting to hit a point that they can contest RMU. They're going to have to be careful.
Don't go in there! Noobs R Us gets hit up by the tidal wave. Snell Run's going to be the focus as well from West Coast Carry. Redemption goes out. A Shumpo over the wall will find Noobs R Us and take him down. Quick game, meantime, has to flash away from that. So another kill picked up there from the side of RMU. But Nasty, looks like she wasn't done quite yet. Vayne getting a little bit aggressive going forward a little bit, but oh, good condemn there into a hook there. West Coast Carry has to flash away from the gravity field. He takes a lot of damage. They've turned on to Baron. Lee Sin has gone back to base to heal. This is going down pretty quick.
It's pretty hard for them to be able to contest this. There's still 5 members alive, even though the front line is relatively low. And they also are not going to have a smite in range quite yet. West Coast Carry getting very low, though.
Chaos
He's drop.
Storm takes him down. The Baron as well. Victor's not able to steal the Baron this time. West Coast Carry is going to trade his life for that one, but Victor picks up 2 quick kills. Katarina gets exhausted as she goes in. That's going to be a kill over to the Vayne. They take in the Baron, but they're going to lose all their lives. Evan RL trying to run away, has to flash, but he's surely going to fall. They only have Nami left available with the Baron buff. GVSU! They take the fight!
They got another kill onto RMU as they try and force around the Baron. It was a good pickoff attempt by RMU, and they want to translate that into Baron instantly. If there's one thing you can say that RMU doesn't have, it's patience, as they constantly are throwing these games away. And we're saying GVSU, they just got to keep scaling, keep scaling. This is another opportunity for them to continue to grab gold around the map.
Well, they don't have the Baron buff for GVSU this time around, but they picked up so many members of RMU that only Pommy has that available. Most of them are still dead. This is going to be an Infernal Dragon, the second one of the game going over to GVSU. You already have Victor dealing damage. You have the Vayne turning online. You have double Infernal Drakes. What do you do?
I don't know. You also have the better front line for sure. You can see that Lee Sin and Nautilus will be able to provide so much better front line. Sure, it's scary if an Olaf and Renekton are running right at your face, but if you can peel them, you're going to win easily. And here you see, after West Coast carry got chunked out super hard, it's very hard for him to walk forward and contest. Victor still had his ultimate available. He throws that one in. Mordio no longer had his ultimate. He blows it right now, a little too late. And so they're able to finish off that Baron, but with both frontliners down, it's a little easy for them to chase. Pinks tries to go in for the reset. I like the idea overall. And just unfortunately, Evan RL is not actually able to finish off the Victor, and then it's easy for the rest of the team to chase him down.
Yeah, and so that's going to be RMU. A little bit too focused on the Baron, a little bit too eyes on the prize in that one. Falling down. Still have one Baron buff on their side to try to dissuade anything from GVSU. GVSU has been able to win fights, get themselves back into almost a gold evening out. They're about 1,000 gold behind. The 30-something minutes into the game is not the worst thing in the world, but the fact of the matter is they still haven't really been able to push this aggression, push any of these advantages they're getting back onto RMU's side of the map. So RMU, while they are continuously giving up objectives, continuously giving up fights, are still somehow in control of this game.
Right, I mean, I think a big part of it is the fact that despite GVSU slowly getting gold back, it's going to be hard for the Nautilus to ever really push out the Renekton or whoever he's laning up against. So that means you pretty much always have side lane pressure. And now we see Noobs with no teleport, so he wants to be grouped up with his team. The West Coast carry is pushing, so it's still hard for GVSU to really contest the pushing that RMU has, especially around the Renekton pick. You see the whole team rotate over to West Coast carry and try and get a dive off.
Ooh, the gravity field goes down, pulls Mordio back in, has to pop the Ragnarok. The depth charge goes out into him. It's not going to wind up knocking anybody else up as he splits from his team. But now RMU are playing around where West Coast carry is going to be on the map. Guardian Angels picked up for their own front line in the Renekton and the Olaf. We saw them cutting off any way in through the jungle against GVSU if they tried to engage from that side, but they got to be careful, though. They have low HP amounts on West Coast carry, low HP amounts on Mordio. They have to be very, very concerned if they're going to be trying to force anything with this one remaining Baron buff on Pommy.
A little surprising to see the Nautilus ult the Olaf. That's one of the few no-nos in the league. Is with Nautilus having such a telegraphed ult, it's pretty easy for the Olaf to know to pop his own, make sure he doesn't get knocked up. But most importantly for GVSU is that they were able to turn that push away, not giving up any gold in the form of that turret. As long as they're continuing to stall out, you got to think that this favors GVSU. Unless the Katarina can start getting really big, she's still relatively weak with about 2.5 items completed. 6-item Katarina has huge potential to just blow up a Vayne, who's generally always very squishy in low range. So it's hard to play Vayne into Katarina. So that might be one of the few saving graces for RMU because their front line and their DPS is going to be a lot lower overall.
Well, if you're GVSU, you're really concerned about protecting this Vayne, but you're also concerned about the fact that you still have a 6-1-3 Victor with a death cap picked up on their side. So Victor also going to be a threat that scales extremely well into the late game, but as you do say, RMU's Katarina definitely has that reset potential. If she's able to put down damage and wind up taking down 1 or 2 of those carries, that could be the RMU needs to try to close out this game.
And we're talking about Victor. I mean, one thing we haven't hit on is the fact that he's level 18 in the game. No one else is there yet. West Coast carry is the closest at 17. And then you see Katarina on the other side, level 15, has been stuck with Ezreal basically in her lane for most of the game, while GVSU has done a better job running people around the map, collecting all those waves that were pushing into them. Vayne level 16, higher than both carries on the side of RMU. And the Nautilus also 16. So generally there's big level leads on the side of GVSU.
And also because of the large amount of physical damage on the side of RMU, GVSU has been heavily prioritizing armor, which means that this Ezreal pickup has not yet completed his Blade of the Rune King to try to chunk down any members of that front line. Instead, having to go for the Lord Dominic's Regards extremely early on to cut through a lot of the armor in addition to the HP. So that's still Evan RL's Ezreal slightly behind in his own itemization. Normally you want to go for the Blade of the Rune King and then pick up the armor penetration, but because of the way that GVSU is building, he's going to get the armor penetration first, and he's just not hitting as hard as you would think he would.
All right, a lot of these Ezreal Qs, you see them landing onto the tanks, and no, it's not that bad. Whereas normally it's like, ow, there's 20% of my health. So obviously, GVSU itemizing well for this game. Like we mentioned before, still down 1,000 gold. Baron and Elder Dragon will both be spawning in about a minute and a half. That's where you'll see a lot of the action. And I think RMU is slowly realizing that they have to play this a lot safer. They can't just go for these really brute force plays. Even after they kill members of GVSU, you have to realize that they're killing tanks and not the big threats of Victor and Vayne, who, as long as they're untouched, can basically 2v5 a fight.
Things have definitely slowed down while the objectives are waiting to spawn on the map. Both of these teams know that while GVSU in the past couple of fights has looked advantageous, RMU technically still have a small gold advantage and technically still have more of the map pressure and more of the experience as well. This is the team that everybody was thinking coming in #1 in the North. They were going to make it through the playoffs. They were going to make it to the finals. They had their eyes on the prize. They wanted to wind up winning the entire campus series. GVSU, team that's only been around for about 2 years as an organization, not just these members in general. These members still not necessarily as experienced as some of the guys on RMU and just a competitive environment altogether. RMU, it would be devastating for that program to get eliminated in the playoffs, the Northern Conference playoffs, not even just the overall campus series playoffs.
Right, I think on the side of GVSU, we talk about how they're trying to get it past the round of 32 for the first time. And this would be quite the way to do it, given how, especially given how the games have gone, where they've fallen behind heavily every game and been able to battle their way back. It's been quite the story to see.
Baron has spawned on the map. We see a dash forward there from the Vayne and condemn against the wall. The Olaf Ragnarok has to be popped extremely early, burning through half of his HP. With both of these huge objectives on the map, that is a massive ultimate to lose.
Yeah, great start off there by the Vayne, getting the stun onto the wall. Follow-up by Noobs R Us was good as well, able to CC him and force that ultimate out. The power of Vayne versus these frontliners who don't have a ton of lockdown CC. It's very hard to get onto her. We're going to have to hope that they find some kind of TP flank if they're going to want to win this fight.
The Baron buff is available. The hook lands on the West Coast carry. Sonic Wave, patience prevails. No resonating strike from Schnellrun. No Mordio in the front side of the map. There's still 2 Guardian Angels on the side of RMU, so that means you have to burn through their tanky front line 1.5 to 2 times before you actually wind up taking them out of the fight. Noobs R Us does dredge on the wall over there. He's actually starting to take a bit of damage out of that. Ezreal has picked up that Blade of the Rune King. You mentioned before, wasn't really dealing a lot of damage, but now that Nautilus is saying, ow.
Yep, definitely hurts when you miss a hook into a wall like that and leave yourself a little exposed. Enemies don't have to be as worried about your hook potential, so they're able to walk up and hit you a little bit more.
Ooh. Noobs R Us going down to where that tower wound up falling just due to minion pressure. Mordio gonna draw some Baron aggro there, gets hooked back against the wall, gonna tank that up a little bit. West Coast carry dash, slices forward. The teleport coming in from the side of Noobs R Us. In the backside though, they're actually able to catch QXQ, and that's gonna be huge. Nautilus cancels the teleport as well. So RMU finds a key target exposed and just destroys them.
It looks like GVSU is deciding to completely sack the Baron, running down to the Elder Dragon. They're hoping maybe that they can trade instead of just giving this one away for free, or looking to fight and contest it without their extremely fed Victor. I don't mind this call, but they're just starting the Elder Dragon now. The enemy team already has the Baron buff. This is extremely hard for them to do.
They're indecisive. Nautilus isn't tanking. The Dragon's only taking a little bit of damage, and here comes RMU. So they've backed away from the Baron. They aren't able to collapse on the Dragon, and they're going to give over both objectives off of that catch to RMU.
And this is a disaster now for GVSU. It looked like they were fighting their way back into the game. They had the opportunity to maybe actually win a fight on neutral ground, but once again, we see QXQ getting picked off, and now they're going to have to deal with super creeps and a Baron Elder Dragon buffed up team as well, trying to crack this base finally 39 minutes into the game, basically.
And that's going to be disastrous for GVSU. You were so close, and your Victor gets caught out. Huge priority champion in these fights, and that's going to transition to double objectives taken by RMU, and now the push into the mid lane. That bottom lane had already wound up going down to minions themselves. The mid lane is going to be pressured up by all 5 members here, and that's going to be RMU grouped up in the mid lane, taking down the inhibitor tower, focused down onto the inhibitor. GVSU are so scared they can't fight with that Baron buff. They can't fight with the aspect of the Dragon. They have to give up their base.
Yeah, they give up that first middle inhibitor. It would normally be very hard for RMU to siege given how short range their comp is, aside for Ezreal. With the extra burn of the Elder Dragon and the Baron buff minions being harder to clear for Victor, one of the best wave clear champs in the game, RMU is finally able to take their first inhibitor of the game. The gold lead has shot back up to around 7,000 gold now for RMU just off the back of these plays. and you see them hopefully being able to close out this game now. So we see GVSU potentially starting a fight here.
Dredge line in the kick, but the depth charge in the kick, but the dredge line will not wind up landing down onto uLoL as well to kind of follow up that CC chain. The rest of RMU are just content to kind of back up. They have a Elder Dragon empowered Ocean Drake on their side, which will heal them up slowly but surely as they back away. Meanwhile, the Redemption gets popped there by Quick Game to heal up the side of GVSU. They will have super minions eventually hitting down into that mid lane, so someone will have to deal with it soon. But a Dominus pop, a flash forward, the slice and dice, they lock onto the Victor, but the Zanya's Hourglass gets popped. This could be a Guardian Angel going down, but after the Zanya's, the tidal wave hits, and 2 members are down. The front line is gone. The Victor is gone. Vayne has to flash back to base as Katarina shun pose forward, and in a nail biter, RMU, the favorites of the North, will charge into the base. It was a hard-fought victory, but it is going to be a victory. RMU will take Game 3.
After a nail-biting series overall, if you're an RMU fan, they looked like they were in control heavily this game before their over-aggressive tendencies came back to haunt them. And it looked like they might be getting outscaled before they find a pickoff onto QXQ at the most important point in the game, with both big neutral objectives finally spawning. And with that, they're able to actually close this one out.
That was a real humdinger. I'm going to use another word.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million words you can use to describe this series. Nail biter, humdinger, apparently. Not flip flopper. RMU did win, but I mean, really, the guys on RMU. They got a lot of stuff to look at heading into next week's games, the finals, because they have to improve their shot calling, their over-aggressive tendencies. Good on them for making it through this series. Very stressful and a lot to learn from.
Yeah, it definitely was not the cleanest game, and a lot of that stemmed from the fact that RMU were making not necessarily aggressive plays, but aggressive calls in this game is what cost them. And we did see that basically as soon as Baron spawned at about 21.5 minutes, they went for a play where they had Renekton on the bot side. They're like, oh, Nautilus isn't here. We can just tank this up for forever, do whatever we want. But it results in GVSU actually taking the fight and stealing the Baron from them as well.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, the Olaf is extremely tanky. So overall, they're fine thinking that they can start this off. You see Pinks trying to play zoning duty. This is a slightly telegraphed move when you see a Katarina putting a dagger down right in the middle. He waits for that to time out before walking through, checks with the Q, realizes it's not there, and then with the additional warding, takes the blast plant over, and that gets him in range to go for the smite steal as well as the Baron tick. You see, he didn't actually smite even, it was just the Olaf who did, so a big misplay there by the side of RMU, and then QXQ in particular, the people just weren't respecting the victor. Evan RL walks up there and gets obliterated from basically full health, gets another snipe on the Mordio there, Pinks went over the wall, trying to punish after they lost that Baron, and you just see that overall the side of RMU doesn't seem to easily assess how easy it is for them to make stuff happen. They think that they can burn the Baron down. That doesn't work. They say, all right, well, we'll just turn off and kill them. You can't really do that either. You're pretty low at this point.
Yeah, and it took RMU a very long time to kind of restabilize after that. Granted, they never actually wound up having a goal deficit in this game, but the pressure on the map just completely flip-flopped on them once that Baron buff kind of equaled things out. And of course, we had to see them doing brush baits that didn't really pan out. They were trying to poke and prod and break through GVSU's armor. It took them a long time if they actually got the victor.
Yeah, I mean, the next time that they went for a Baron attempt, like you said, they do a brush bait, great. They pick off the two tanky frontline members of the side of GVSU, but then they try and force on the Baron right away. And I mean, versus Vayne Victor, who have now caught back up in gold, that's very, very dangerous to do. They don't turn off well at all, and they end up giving away some kills despite securing the Baron. So a very scrappy series back and forth. RMU finally able to pull the trigger and actually take the game 3, but they got some stuff to improve on.
They definitely have a lot of stuff to work on, although that is going to be them taking the victory in the best-of-3 series, so they will move on. And who are they going to wind up facing in the regional semifinals?
Well, next week we have the regional semifinals between RMU going up against Columbia, another strong team who won't go down without a fight.
Yeah, meanwhile, on the west side of things, UCI will be playing SFU. That's going to be a huge game. Simon Fraser University, really the only Canadian team that can really take it back and forth against UBC. We saw them in the rivalry series, and UCI has always been a powerhouse and premier team in uLoL in general. So we'll have to see who pulls out all the stops to take that victory. It's going to be a really close game.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to see what UCI can do, especially given the fact that Youngbin had joined Team Liquid for a little bit, so we're not sure exactly what their lineup will look like moving forward. So maybe they're in a little worse spot than we saw at the start of the campus series.
Well, they made it to the semifinals, so
they're
can't
still
exactly be in a bad spot.
They're definitely not the worst team out there anymore.
But that's a really, really big matchup for us to look at. But that's going to be next week, of course. Those games will happen then. That's going to be our show for today. It was a really good best of 3 series. RMU barely coming out. So thank you for watching. We'll see you again next Monday. On your Snell run, goes forward, runs a kick and Mordio backwards. The command shockwave comes in, but meanwhile on the bottom side, Pommy and West Coast Carry have been able to take down the Lucian, but now they're turning down onto Mordio. It's been a 1-for-1 trade. The Katarina ultimate is there. It's a double kill picked up now for QXQ. Another one. So we see here West Coast Carry going for a bit of more aggressive buy here, though. 5 pinks. Good command shockwave is going to lock up, deal a ton of damage to the entire team at GVSU. The Wild Growth does come in on the Katarina though, so the knockup and the slow will find a kill onto Orianna. To be fair, they didn't have as much of this advantage in game number 1, but they still had advantages basically off the back of things like this. Look at that, they were stopping moving so that Schnellrun was not going to be able to see them with that Tremor Send, and they just melt through the Rek'Sai as they see him coming in from the mid lane. With that ward being placed down, that's going to trigger a teleport in from West Coast Carry. We did have the tidal wave already coming out. Quick game gets knocked back. Wild Growth will not keep him alive. M Nasty now popping beyond the hunt, but West Coast Carry and Evan RL are right there. A flash forward from the Ash does pick up the second kill, but it looks like it's going to be the side of GVSU going in first. The paralyzing gaze locks people up. The kick back in there. They landed onto the super high HP Rek'Sai with the Wild Growth, and they are just destroying GVSU. They don't even need to push down that top lane tower. The mid lane is pushing in. There's 4 members down, and this is going to be RMU. Welcome back to the best of 3. So we do have West Coast Carry rotating away from their Nautilus here. He is spotted out by GVSU. The blast going over the wall early on. They steal it with the Victor. So that's able to be taken away from the side of RMU. And now GVSU pick up 2 quick kills off of that one. Oh, don't go in there. Noobs RS gets hit up by the tidal wave. Schnellrun's going to be the focus as well from West Coast Carry. Redemption goes out. A Shumpo over the wall will find Noobs RS and take him down. But a Dominus pop, a flash forward, the slice and dice. They lock onto the Victor, but the Zanya's Hourglass gets popped. This could be a Guardian Angel going down, but after the Zanya's, the tidal wave hits, and 2 members are down. The front line is gone. The Victor is gone. Vayne has to flash back to base as Katarina Shunpo's forward, and in a nail-biter, RMU, the favorites of the North, will charge into the base. It was a hard-fought victory, but it is going to be a victory. RMU will take game 3.